Chapter 58-59. Lin Yi smiled faintly and said, "Brother Hong, if it weren't for you, I wouldn't care about the title of honorary vice president. Let's go. Don't bother with such a person with a worrying IQ. Let's go back and continue chatting." Hong Zhong didn't look at the livid Wei Jiating. He turned around and walked back with Lin Yi with a smile. "Brother Lin, don't think that everyone in the Hong's Chamber of Commerce is so stupid. We have been friends for several years. Don't give up." If the title of honorary vice president of the Hong's Chamber of Commerce was a very high status for Lin Yi in the past, and he needed to work hard to maintain it, then now it had been completely reversed. It was the honor of the Hong's Chamber of Commerce to have a senior alchemist like Lin Yi as the honorary vice president of the Hong's Chamber of Commerce. Not to mention impeaching Lin Yi. If he wanted to leave, the Hong's Chamber of Commerce would try its best to persuade him to stay. Lin Yi knew this, and Hong Zhong was even more clear about it. Only an idiot like Wei Jiating would ask Lin Yi to move goods for him and even threaten them with impeaching Lin Yi and Hong Zhong. No one would believe that he didn't want to destroy the Hong's Chamber of Commerce. Wei Jiating snorted coldly. He didn't have the face to continue to show off here. He left the Hong's Chamber of Commerce with a gloomy face and went directly to the dock to board the ship. As for the junk he bought, he would probably not know until he returned to the central island and gave it away. After returning upstairs, Lin Yi asked Hong Zhong if he had seen the ghost cicada wing. Of course he hadn't. It was really difficult to find the really precious things in the North Island, probably because the price was too low. For example, the ghost cicada wing could only be sold for 50,000 to 60,000 spiritual jades in the North Island. If it was taken to the Central Island, it could be sold for at least 200,000 to 300,000 spiritual jades. It might even be sold for more than $1 million at the last auction. The price in the extreme North Island would only be higher than that in the Central Island. Therefore, good things would not stay in the three Central, Western and Northern Islands. Of course, there would occasionally be opportunities to pick up scraps, but such opportunities were extremely rare. Lin Yi didn't think that he would be able to get what he wanted just by casually wandering around. After a short while, Shanghai Laner sent someone to inform Lin Yi that her grandfather didn't allow her to go to the northernmost island. Instead, she wanted to stay here to accompany her future master. However, Shanghai Tianhua still attached great importance to Lin Yi. So, when he came back from the northernmost island, he must go and see him. Since Shanghai Laner couldn't go with them, Lin Yi didn't continue to wait. It was almost time for the fleet to set off again. They simply bid farewell to Xiao Ran and others and returned to the ancient battleship with Hong Zhong. When Okuda Ba saw Lin Yi coming back, he smiled and greeted him. "Brother Lin, you're back. Manager Hong is also here. I've already arranged a room for you. It's not far from Brother Lin's. Is that good?" Hong Zhong smiled and cupped his fists. "Thank you, Captain Okuda. This is exactly what I wanted. We haven't seen each other for a while. Let's have a drink later." "No problem. I've been waiting for you to say that." Okuda Ba laughed heartily. It seemed that the relationship between the two was very good. Lin Yi didn't know whether it was a friendship from before or a new development in the past 2 years. Anyway, Lin Yi was very happy. "Brother Okuda, are you waiting for some big shot to come?" Lin Yi asked casually. The number of people on the northern island who could make Okuda Ba personally wait for them could be counted with one hand. Shanghai Tianhua probably wouldn't come. Otherwise, Shanghai Laner would definitely follow them to the northern island. Okuda Ba shook his head and smiled. "No, I'm waiting for you, Brother Lin. After we set sail today, the crew on the ship will be complete. So, I'll be leading a small trade fair in the evening. Consider it as a warm-up for the auction on the northern island. This is the jade token to enter. Brother Lin, if you're interested, you can come and have a look." "Brother Okuda specially gave me a jade token? You're too polite," Lin Yi said in surprise. He took the jade token and thanked Okuda Ba. For this kind of thing, he could just find someone to give him a jade token. There was no need to wait for him to come back, right? He knew about this small-scale trade fair. The passengers on the ancient warship were either rich or powerful. It was necessary to conduct a small-scale trade fair before arriving at the extreme North Island. On the one hand, it could give those who wanted to collect spirit jades more time to prepare. On the other hand, it could also consume some of the potential opponents' financial and material resources in advance. Okuda Ba laughed and said, "I'm afraid that I'll forget about you when I'm busy. So, I took advantage of my free time to come out for a walk and wait for you. This jade token can bring 2 people in. So, I won't give you little ways. But you can't save on shopkeeper Hong's." Hong Zhong took the jade token from Okuda Ba and laughed. "Look at your pained expression. Is this jade token very expensive?" "No, it's only 10,000 spiritual jades. Those who can participate in the trade fair are all people with status. This entrance fee is still necessary. Okuda Ba didn't hide it. He smiled and winked at Hong Zhong. It's just to earn some pocket money. In any case, I have to provide the venue and some food and drinks. 10,000 spiritual jades really isn't expensive. You unscrupulous merchant. Fortunately, you didn't open a chamber of commerce to steal business. Otherwise, you'd be a formidable opponent. Hong Zhong laughed and joked. Then they walked in together. Shang Yuhua excused herself and left. This time they couldn't buy Yangji grass in the North Island. She had to discuss with Shang Wani how to solve the problem of Kai Zhongyang. After all, Kai Zhongyang took out the Yangji grass for them. They couldn't burn the bridge after crossing it. Okuda Ba had a lot of things to prepare for the trade fair in the evening. So he left after saying a few words to Lin Yi and Hong Zhong. Fortunately, it was getting late and the trade fair was about to start. Lin Yi, Hong Zhong and Wei Xinjin went to the venue to wait. Ho Guanqi, Kai Zhongyang, and the others naturally had jade plates from Okuda Ba. So Lin Yi didn't need to worry about them. After sitting for a while, the two came together and greeted Hong Zhong. After a while, Shang Wani also came with Shang Yuhua. When he saw Kai Zhongyang, he immediately came over and said apologetically, "Chairman Kai, I'm sorry. This time I didn't buy Yangji grass in the North Island. I'm really sorry that you got into trouble. When we get to the North Island, I'll definitely help explain. I'll also bear all the subsequent losses." Chairman Kai, you don't have to be so polite. We're rivals in the business world and friends in private. You don't have to worry about this. Kai Zhongyang smiled and waved his hand. Of course he couldn't really not care. But now that things had come to this, there was no point in saying anything more. Chapter 58-60. That being said, he also knew that the chances of finding another yang pole grass on this ship were extremely low. On the other hand, he might be able to find a yin core fruit. After all, this fruit was much more abundant than yang pole grass. Kai Zhongyang didn't say anything more. This matter had already reached the point where he could only take one step at a time. There was really nothing more to say. Slowly, more and more people entered the venue. Most of them knew each other. No matter what their relationship was, it was necessary to greet each other. Therefore, the people around Lin Yi gradually dispersed. This small trade fair was similar to a wine party in the secular world. Eat, drink, and build relationships. In the end, everyone would take out what they were willing to trade and say what they wanted. If they were satisfied, then they would close the deal. It was very simple. Wei Xinjin naturally didn't leave Lin Yi's side, so Shang Yuhua also stayed. The three of them chatted in an inconspicuous corner, drank tea and ate spirit fruits. It was very comfortable. When most of the people had arrived, Okuda Ba stood on the stage and said, "Honored guests, welcome to the small trade fair that I, Okuda Ba, am holding tonight. Let's skip the small talk and get straight to the point. Let's start today's trade." Lin Yi estimated that there were about 300 people in the banquet hall, and while one jade card could allow 2 people to enter, most of them came alone. After all, they were all people with high statuses, and it wasn't appropriate for them to have followers. Other than the few people who came with Okuda Ba and gave out their cards, Okuda Ba would be able to earn 2 to 3 million spirit jades just from the entrance fee alone. What a good business mind he had. On the stage, Okuda Ba's face was also red. He seemed to be in a good mood. He took out a jade box and said, "Next, I'll start by taking out something to warm everyone up. It's not good, please don't laugh at me. Captain Okuda is too modest. How could something you take out be bad? Hurry up and show it to us." Someone shouted. Who knew if it was someone Okuda Ba arranged to hype up the atmosphere for the trade? Anyway, Lin Yi didn't know this person. Okuda Ba smiled and nodded at the man. He casually opened the jade box and said, "This is a 1,000-year-old truth recovery grass. It can be used to refine the truth recovery pill. Everyone knows that the truth recovery pill is a pill used by cultivators in the mountain opening stage to recover their true chi. Although it's not considered precious, it's still a mystic level 1 pill. For a cultivator in the early mountain opening stage, a low-grade truth recovery pill can basically recover all of their true chi in an instant. In a battle, this pill can save lives." There were already some people below. Although there weren't many mountain opening stage cultivators here, it didn't mean that they didn't have any backers. Truth recovery grass was an important strategic resource for mountain opening stage cultivators. It wasn't a small thing like Okuda Ba said. It was definitely a good thing. As an item to attract jade, I don't have to specify what I want to trade for this 1,000-year truth recovery grass. As long as it's about the same, it's fine. Of course, you can also use spiritual jades to buy it. Okuda Ba smiled and looked around at the people around him. He took out the truth recovery grass to boost the atmosphere. Otherwise, this thing would be useful to him and he wouldn't have taken it out to sell. Captain Okuda, how many spiritual jades are you planning to sell this truth recovery grass for? There were already people who couldn't help but start asking. Those who went to the extreme North Islands auction didn't lack spiritual jades. As for good things, they wouldn't take them out if they could. To them, spiritual jades were the most useless thing. Okuda smiled and said, I won't name a price. Everyone just take a look and see if it's about the same as the market price. Everyone cursed him in their hearts. What's about the same as the market price? Could the market price of the extreme North Island be the same as the market price of the extreme North Island? Moreover, there were definitely more than one or two people who wanted the truth recovery grass. He was clearly trying to get people to bid, and the highest bidder would get it. However, Okuda's move was indeed the best way to stir up the atmosphere. As long as he could sell this truth recovery grass for a high price, the atmosphere would be set. If it wasn't something good, no one would dare to take it out. I bid 1 million spiritual jades. The person who asked just now didn't waste any more time and directly bid 1 million spiritual jades. Okuda just smiled and didn't say anything. 1 million spiritual jades was indeed the market price, but it was only the market price of the extreme North Island. However, it was basically impossible to buy the 1,000-year truth recovery grass with this price. Okuda wasn't in a hurry. This was just the beginning and he believed that there would be new bids soon. I bid 2 million spiritual jades. Another person made a bid, directly doubling the price. Unfortunately, this price was still on the low side. If the 1,000-year truth recovery grass was taken to an auction, it could be sold for at least 4 million spirit jades. Now that they were on the way to the extreme North Island, no one believed that a mere 2 million spirit jades could buy the 1,000-year truth recovery grass. Just now, Okuda had only said that the low-grade truth recovery pill could instantly recover the chi of the early stage of the mountain opening realm. In fact, the high-grade truth recovery pill could also recover the injuries of the user, and it was also instantaneous. Otherwise, there were other pills that could recover chi, and the truth recovery grass wouldn't be so sought after. The most valuable thing about it was the word, instantaneous. In the midst of an intense battle, what was the difference between this and having an extra life? A mountain opening realm giant was a peak existence to any force. If it could give them an extra life, what was a mere spiritual jades? In just 4 rounds of bidding, the 1,000-year truth recovery grass had already reached a sky-high price of 5 million spiritual jades. However, this was still within the normal price range, and Okuda wasn't satisfied either. However, at this point the bidding became more cautious. There were almost no increments of 1 or 2 million spiritual jades. They were all increments of 1 or 200,000 spiritual jades. In the end, the 1,000-year truth recovery grass was sold for a price of 8,300,000 spiritual jades. If it was a truth recovery pill, breaking through 10 million would be a piece of cake. Unfortunately, this was only a truth recovery grass. If he wanted to refine it into a pill, he would need to find a high-level alchemist. There weren't many alchemists who could refine a mystic-level first-grade alchemist in the 3 islands. Linny felt that it was a pity. He really wanted this truth recovery grass. Although he didn't have the pill recipe for the truth recovery pill, this pill recipe wasn't something that could be obtained easily. With the Shinnon cauldron, refining it into a pill wouldn't be a problem at all. Chapter 5861. With Okuda Dam's good start, the second person immediately went on stage. He also took out a mystic level 1 pill's main ingredient, but he didn't want any spiritual jades. He only wanted to trade for one thing, but there was nothing he wanted. Or maybe there was something he wanted but no one was willing to trade for it. In the end, he could only cancel his bid. The next 3 people all succeeded either by trading or selling. In any case, the process was very smooth, not affected by the second person's failure. Linny looked on with interest but didn't make a move. It wasn't that he didn't want those things, but he didn't have anything suitable to trade for them. The next person to go on stage was Shangwani. He didn't take out anything but directly posted a request. I need a yang pole grass. As long as you have it, I'm willing to buy it for 10 million spiritual jades. Or if you want something in exchange, we can discuss it. I'll do my best to satisfy your needs. The audience began to whisper amongst themselves. The yang pole grass was indeed precious, but 10 million spirit jades was already 10 times the auction price of the yang pole grass. This was completely different from the truth restoration grass. Whether it was in terms of grade or value, the difference was huge. Furthermore, the usage of the yang pole grass was very limited. If anyone had it, they would definitely take it out without hesitation. Not to mention, Shangwani had also said that he would consider exchanging something they wanted for the Yangpole grass. This was simply too tempting. Unfortunately, no one present had the Yangpole grass on them. The Zheng family sneered in the corner. If Yangpole grass was so easy to get, it wouldn't have been used as a tool to trap Kai Zhongyang. So no matter how high Shangwani's price was, they wouldn't be worried. Shangwani looked back and forth a few times, the disappointment in his eyes growing. This was his last attempt. It seemed like there was no hope of getting the Yangpole grass. In the end, he could only shake his head and leave the stage. He didn't take out any more items to trade. Kai Zhongyang also felt a little sad in his heart. However, he was still rather satisfied that Shangwani was willing to offer such a high price to purchase the Yangji grass. At least he did not save the wrong person. From now on he could only do his best. After that, they made a few more trades. The items were not bad, but Linny was not interested. He began to wonder if he should go up and ask if there were any ghost cicada wings. If there were, he could trade or buy them. Before he could think about it, something that piqued his interest appeared on it. Moreover, Linny happened to have what that person wanted. Everyone, this is a storage bag that has been passed down from ancient times. The space inside isn't big, but it's not small either. It can fit a dining table. If you carry it around, it's very convenient to store some things. Weapons can be stored inside. It's very convenient. I only want to trade it for 2 mountain-gazing pills. If there's only one, it must be of high quality and above. Also, you have to compensate me with 3 million spirit jades. Linny looked at the storage bag with interest. It looked similar to the ones he saw in the ancient small underworld. However, in terms of space, it was not as good as those in the ancient small underworld. Speaking of which, when he left the ancient small underworld, he should have brought 2 back. Anyway, the Blue Cloud sect was already the leader of the 4 big sections. They could use the Alliance's items. When he returned, he could give it to Han Jingjing for research. Perhaps she could mass-produce it. Although Linny had the space in the jade pendant, it was much more convenient to have this storage bag. At least when facing people stronger than him, he didn't have to worry about taking things out of the space in the jade pendant. It's actually a storage bag. I've only heard of it, but I've never seen it before. I didn't expect to see it for real this time. Just exchanging for 2 mountain-gazing pills seems to be a bit of a loss, right? Some people started to discuss below. 2 mountain-gazing pills for a storage pouch seemed to be a very cheap deal. Although mountain-gazing pills weren't something that could be obtained easily, compared to the storage bags that had been passed down from ancient times, it was on a completely different level. Didn't you hear him say that the space is only the size of a dining table? It can only store some personal items. Its value isn't as high as you think. Another person retorted. If it was a storage bag with a large space, its value would be immeasurable. It was precisely because the space wasn't big that the person said that he wanted to exchange for 2 mountain-gazing pills. No matter what others said, Linny was prepared to take this storage bag. He didn't lack mountain-gazing pills, and exchanging for this storage bag would be of great help to him. Even if he gave it to Han Jingjing for research in the future, it would be worth it. After making his decision, Linny didn't wait any longer. He casually took out a jade bottle and a green spirit jade card. He went on stage and said, "I have a mountain-gazing pill here to exchange for your storage bag. As for spirit jades, I can only give you 500,000. You decide if you want to exchange for it or not." The person opened the jade bottle and took a look. He immediately closed the bottle and handed the storage bag to Linny and said, "Deal." The mountain-gazing pill that Linny refined was of special quality. Its effect was much better than the high-quality mountain-gazing pill, and it was 2 or 3 times better than the medium-quality mountain-gazing pill. Even if Linny didn't add spirit jades, this guy would still agree to exchange. Anyway, this storage bag was of little value to him. It was convenient to carry things, but how could it be more important than advancing to the magnate realm? Jing Dongxing and Jing Dongjue looked at each other in surprise. They were thinking about how to confirm that Linny had the mountain-gazing pill. They didn't expect that someone would exchange for his mountain-gazing pill with a storage bag. In this way they could basically confirm that Hou Guanqi had given the mountain-gazing pill to Linny. After Kai Zhongyang, the time to deal with Hou Guanqi was almost ripe. When they returned to Middle Island, they could start to chase Hou Guanqi out of the alchemy hall. Linny didn't know that his mountain-gazing pill would cause trouble for Hou Guanqi. He was satisfied and tried to use the storage bag. The space inside was really not big, only a little more than 2 cubic meters. If it was used to store spirit herbs and pills, it could store a lot of them. However, he only wanted the storage bag as a cover. The real important things should be stored in the space of the jade pendant. Chapter 5862. Lin Yi was inspired by Li Zhaoyi to trade for pills. He didn't want to be so high profile, but everyone on the ancient warship probably knew that he refined yin and yang pill alone to save Shangwani, so he just openly admitted his identity as a mystic level 1 alchemist. At least it was better than exchanging spirit tempering pill or mountain gazing pill. Master Lin, although I don't have the ghost cicada wings, I have other materials. Spirit jades are fine too. Can I ask you to help me refine pills? The person who bought the Millennium Truth Recovery Grass couldn't help but ask. It was not easy to meet a mystic level 1 alchemist. Although there were 2 on the ship, they wouldn't easily help. For example, Li Zhaoyi's opportunity to help was reserved for the auction on the extreme North Island. She definitely wouldn't help anyone now. Moreover, Lin Yi's alchemy ability had already been proven. Li Zhaoyi couldn't refine yin and yang pill alone, but Lin Yi could. Who was better? Lin Yi was slightly stunned. He didn't expect this to happen. Thinking about it carefully, it was a good business. Helping people refine pills could not only get the recipe but also get extra pills. It was a profitable business, even more profitable than the Central Chamber of Commerce selling junk. Asking an alchemist to help usually required one's own recipe, and 2 sets of materials were required. Of course, it couldn't be helped if they could only prepare 1 set if they were too precious. However, the reward was something of similar value. Lin Yi was very interested in the Truth Recovery Pills recipe and pills. So when the person asked, he really couldn't refuse. Well, we can talk about this in private later. Although I will help people refine pills, it depends on the situation. When things are done here, you can come to my room and talk. Lin Yi thought about it and didn't refuse the benefits that came to him. But the most important thing now was to get the ghost cicada wings. If he could refine the ghost speed wings, his strength would go to another level. Thank you, Master Lin. I will definitely visit you with sincerity. That person was very happy, as if he had not expected things to go so smoothly. Being able to refine the Truth Recovery Grass into the Truth Recovery Pill was the most important step. The eyes of several people below the stage also shone. They had already begun to plan. When the matter here was over, they would go to Lin Yi as soon as possible and ask him to help with alchemy. This kind of high-level alchemist had a limited number of times. If they were late, they would not have the chance. On the other side, Li Zhaoyi frowned slightly. Obviously, she did not expect Lin Yi to take out the opportunity to refine elixirs to trade. She knew that she needed to rest for a long time after refining elixirs. How long had it been since Lin Yi refined the yin and yang elixir? If Li Zhaoyi knew that Lin Yi had to refine at least 7 or 8 batches of elixirs a day, and each batch was made with several sets of materials, what would she think? Lin Yi waited on the stage for a while, but no one came up to trade with him. Obviously, the refining of the ghost speed wings had to continue to be delayed. The ghost cicada wings were extremely rare, perhaps as rare as the Yangpole grass. In desperation, Lin Yi could only step down from the stage. However, wherever he passed, most people were friendly and even a little fawning and nodded at him. The status of a profound level 1 alchemist was far higher than Lin Yi had imagined. The following items were still various, but Lin Yi did not pay much attention to them. If they were not what he needed, they could not arouse his interest. In the end, he only used a Thunder Shen pill to exchange for a few yellow level 7 elixir recipes. At least it was a harvest. When the trade fair ended, it was already noon of the next day. Although he did not get the ghost cicada wings, he exchanged for a storage bag and a few elixir recipes. Lin Yi was satisfied. Moreover, there would be people coming to ask him to refine elixirs, so there would be even more benefits. Ho Guanqi, Kai Zhongyang and the others also had their own gains. Even Wei Xinjin had exchanged for an item that he liked. The few of them chatted and laughed as they returned to the door of the room and went back to their own rooms to cultivate. They knew that Lin Yi was going to have guests, and so they didn't want to disturb him. Sure enough, a few minutes after returning, the person who bought the Truth Recovery Grass hurried over. Master Lin, I took the liberty to visit you. Did I disturb your rest? This middle-aged man looked elegant, and very respectfully greeted Lin Yi with cupped fists. He was the kind of person who could easily get a good impression from others. Lin Yi smiled and nodded. After letting him in, he said, "You haven't asked? I was negligent and forgot to introduce myself. I'm really sorry. I am the Thousand Blades Faction's Deputy Sect Master Samurai. Greetings, Master Lin." Samurai once again cupped his fists and said very modestly, "So it is the Thousand Blades Faction's Deputy Sect Master Ling. It's an honor to meet you," Lin Yi said casually. In fact, he had not heard of Samurai before. But when he heard the Thousand Blades Faction, he thought of the Thousand Blades Faction in the immemorial underworld. He did not know if Ling Tianyu and this samurai were related by blood. It was just that after so many years, even if they were of the same bloodline, it was probably very thin. In any case, this person might be Ling Tianyou's relative, so Lin Yi's favorable impression of him became a bit better. After exchanging a few polite words with Lin Yi, Samurai turned to the main topic and said, Master Lin should be clear that I came to find Master Lin in order to refine the true restoration pill. However, this pill is not very urgent, so Master Lin can wait until it is convenient for you to refine it. Lin Yi waved his hand and said, It doesn't matter when you refine it, but I don't have the pill recipe for the true restoration pill. If you want me to refine it, you must give me the pill recipe. This is not a problem, I have the pill recipe for the true restoration pill. Samurai quickly took out a copy of the pill recipe and presented it to Lin Yi with both hands and said, Master Lin, please take a look. This is the pill recipe. In addition, I have also prepared the other ingredients for the true restoration pill. After Lin Yi received the pill recipe, Samurai took out a jade box that was slightly bigger than 2 palms and opened it on the tea table. Inside the box, there were small compartments with spiritual herbs placed inside. Among them was the true restoration grass worth more than 8 million spiritual jades. Master Lin, the true restoration grass is very rare, so I can only prepare one. As for the reward, I don't know what Master Lin wants? Samurai asked with some apprehension. Even if Lin Yi wanted a spiritual herb of the same rank as the true restoration grass, he didn't have it on hand. It would be best if he asked for spiritual jades. 10 million spiritual jades was nothing to him. Chapter 58-63. Although there was only one truth recovery grass, it could barely be considered as 2 materials because most alchemists used the whole plant. Even if there was extra, it would be a waste. Therefore, one plant was considered as 1 material. Lin Yi's Shinong cauldron was different. Because it could be purified perfectly, there would be almost no waste. This truth recovery pill could probably be refined into 2 pills. After knowing what to do, Lin Yi smiled faintly and said, The reward depends on what you are willing to take out. It would be best if you have the same level of spirit grass. If not, you can exchange it with some higher level pill recipes. If not, you can use spiritual jades. Anyway, with a truth recovery pill as a base, Lin Yi would not suffer a loss. Therefore he did not care much about other rewards. He would take whatever he had and was not picky. Samurai secretly gave Lin Yi a thumbs up. He thought that Master Lin was really good and easy to talk to. Although there was no spirit grass, he could not let others suffer too much. Master Lin, how about this? I have 3 pill recipes here. 2 are yellow level 7 and 1 is mystic level 1. I will give them to Master Lin. In addition, I will take out 5 million spiritual jades as your alchemy fee. Is that okay? Samurai asked carefully. This price was very high, but it was nothing compared to the truth recovery pill. Therefore he was also worried that Lin Yi would not be satisfied. Who knew that Lin Yi was secretly speechless at this time? He did not expect that helping others to refine pills could be so profitable. Thinking back to the last time, 100 foundation establishment stage pills were sold for 1 million spiritual jades. The difference in level was huge and the price difference was even more sky-high. Yes, you can leave the things here and come back tomorrow to get the pills. Lin Yi's face was calm, but he was secretly excited. If he could take on more alchemy business, he might not need to refine the spirit tempering pill when he reached the extreme North Island. He would have enough spiritual jades to buy the spirit gathering branch and soul wood. Yes, then I will not disturb Master Lin. Samurai was also very happy. He left the things and left. On this ancient warship he was not worried that Lin Yi would run away with the things, so he even gave Lin Yi the reward. This guy is not bad. We can cooperate more in the future. Lin Yi smiled and whispered to himself. Then, another person came to ask for alchemy. But this time he only wanted a Huang level 7 pill, and the cost of concocting the pill directly became 200,000 spirit jades. Adding on a Huang level 7 pill recipe, it could be seen from this point that the difference between a Huang level 7 pill and a mystic level 1 pill was like the difference between clouds and mud. If it was not for the fact that he did not have the recipe, Lin Yi did not want to accept this alchemy business. Then a few more waves of people came to visit. Without exception, they all asked Lin Yi to refine yellow level 7 pills. Unfortunately, they all needed pills that Lin Yi had the recipe for. This time Lin Yi really did not have any interest. With the excuse that he had already agreed to refine pills for others, so he could not accept any more requests in the short term, Lin Yi hung up the Do Not Disturb sign and began to close the door. Thinking about it carefully, Lin Yi suddenly realized that he had made a mistake. Looking at the cost of those level 7 pills, it was actually not much. It could not be compared to the value of the ghost cicada wings. In other words, the ghost cicada wings that Lin Yi thought he could use to refine pills were very likely not taken out because the level of the pill was not high. Even if someone had it, they did not take it out because the value was not equal. After thinking about this, Lin Yi was a little annoyed. Although he did say that those who did not want to refine pills could ask for other conditions, such empty words could not be believed. If it was exposed, he might be robbed in the future. In any case, this trade fair was over. If he wanted to continue looking for the ghost cicada wings, he had to rely on the auction in the extreme north. Before that, Lin Yi felt that he should focus on earning enough spirit jades. Then, when he participated in the auction, he would have more confidence. He did not have to use good things like spirit tempering pills to exchange. These things were not enough. There were so many subordinates and confidants waiting. After Lin Yi closed the door and set up the restriction, he began to refine pills. He first completed the yellow level 7 pill that he had been entrusted with, then he started to refine the truth recovery pill. It was not his first time refining a mystic level 1 pill, so the success rate was still guaranteed. However, there was only one truth recovery grass, so Lin Yi did not dare to be too careless. Every step was very cautious. After generating the alchemy script, the automatic alchemy system estimated that he could produce 2 pills. This made Lin Yi very satisfied with his ability to estimate. It seemed that after refining many pills, at least in terms of eyesight, the improvement was very obvious. After choosing the alchemy method, Lin Yi began to calm his mind and concentrate on refining the truth recovery pill. This time the refining time was relatively long. It took more than 4 hours to successfully refine. The sky outside was probably already dark. I can produce 2 special quality truth recovery pills on my first time refining. My luck is not bad. Lin Yi happily kept the 2 truth recovery pills. In half a day he had earned a large amount of spirit jades. It was impossible not to be happy. In fact, normally the truth recovery pill was not too useful for Lin Yi. After all, he had the support of the endless spirit chi in the space of the jade pendant. In ordinary battles he was not afraid of the consumption of true chi. Therefore, the truth recovery pill, which was comparable to a life for ordinary mountain opening stage giants, was much less important to him. However, the most precious characteristic of the truth recovery pill was instant recovery. Even the space of the jade pendant could not instantly recover Lin Yi's true chi. From this point of view, Lin Yi felt that it was still very necessary to carry a truth recovery pill with him. Maybe there would be a situation where the space of the jade pendant could not be replenished in time. Seeing that the ghost was still in closed-door cultivation, Lin Yi did not disturb him. He took out a piece of spiritual sense grass root and prepared to continue refining the spirit-quenching pill. He had already felt that the more pills he refined, the stronger his ability in alchemy. Although he still could not refine pills without the Shinong cauldron or the automatic alchemy system, the success rate and quality of the pills refined with the Shinong cauldron were stable at an extremely high level. For example, the truth recovery pill, this kind of profound level 1 pill, before, Lin Yi could not guarantee that the first refining would be successful. It was already good to have a 50% success rate, and the quality could not be guaranteed. But now it was different. Before refining he was sure that he would succeed, and the quality would definitely not be lower than superior. This was the confidence brought by continuous alchemy. Chapter 58-64. Lin Yi's expression changed slightly. This kind of situation had never happened before. The ancient warship was absolutely stable when it was sailing. Coupled with the protection of the defensive layer, even if it hit some small reef groups, the people on the ship wouldn't feel anything. Now that Lin Yi could feel the vibration in the room, something serious must have happened outside. The first thing he thought of was the sea beast tide attack launched by the sea dragon last time. Is it happening again this time? Lin Yi quickly put away the Shinong cauldron, got up and walked out. Because the space in the jade pendant didn't give any warning, Lin Yi wasn't worried about too much danger. However, his relationship with Okuda Dam was still there. If something happened to the ancient warship, he must go and see if he could help. The vibration wasn't the only one. In the short time that Lin Yi went out, there were 2 more slight vibrations. So when he went out of the door, the people next to him also ran out at almost the same time. Obviously, everyone knew that something had happened. Now was the time to help each other, no one could stay out of it. Boss, what happened? Wei Xinjin saw Lin Yi as soon as he went out, so he immediately asked. Lin Yi nodded at Hong Zhong, Ho Guanqi and the others and replied, I'm not sure yet. If there was an enemy attack, there should be an alarm. Now there is no alarm, so it's not easy to say. Let's go and see the situation first. Everyone didn't know what happened, so they could only run to the deck with Lin Yi. When they arrived on the deck, there were already more than 10 people who came out. This reaction speed was even faster than Lin Yi and the others. Lin Yi didn't find Okuda Dam with his divine sense. After all, there were too many places on the ancient warship that could block divine sense. Lin Yi, as the captain, was probably commanding the situation on the bridge. Boss, look, there seems to be two sea beasts fighting. The aftermath affected us, causing the ancient warship to shake. Wei Xinjin pointed to the distance and exclaimed in a low voice. This was the first time he saw such powerful sea beasts. Just the aftermath of the battle could shake the ancient warship. If it was a frontal attack, how terrifying would it be? I saw it. You guys wait here, I'll go ask Captain Okuda about the situation. Lin Yi frowned slightly. After saying a few words to the people around him, he turned around and ran toward the bridge. As the honorary vice captain of this ancient warship, he naturally had the right to enter the bridge when there was a crisis. However, it was not convenient to bring other people over unless they were personally invited by Captain Okuda. Actually, as long as the battle between the two sea beasts did not directly attack the ancient era's warship, it would have nothing to do with them. Once the victor was determined, the two sea beasts would most likely not provoke the ancient era's warship. Now, because the battlefield of these two sea beasts happened to be on the sailing route of the fleet, if they wanted to take a detour, they would deviate from the safe sailing route and enter the dangerous sea. Normally, navigators would not do such a thing. If that was the case, there was nothing for Lin Yi to worry about. At most, he would just have to wait for a while. If he didn't want to wait, with the power of the ancient era's warship, it would not be a problem to directly go over and start the battle. However, the problem now was that Lin Yi could faintly feel that Languza might be one of the two sea beasts fighting. After this guy left Middle Island, there had been no news of him. Lin Yi also did not take the initiative to contact him using the communication pearl. However, he also believed that Languza would not be too far away from the ancient era's warship. If he calculated the distance, the place where the battle was happening should be about the same. Vice Captain Lin. Vice Captain Lin. After Lin Yi entered the bridge, the people who saw him took the initiative to greet him. Last time, if it was not for him controlling the Starfall formation and injuring the Sea Dragon, the ancient era's warship might have sunk to the bottom of the sea. Therefore, the people here sincerely respected Lin Yi. Lin Yi reluctantly suppressed the worry in his heart. He smiled and nodded at them as a greeting. His feet quickly walked towards Okuda Ba. Brother Lin, you're here. It's okay, it's just two sea beasts fighting. It won't affect us. Previously, because the defensive layer was activated to block the wind and waves, we were shaken by the aftermath of their battle. Now that the strength of the defensive layer has been increased, we won't feel it anymore. Okuda Ba smiled and waved at Lin Yi. After seeing the Sea Dragon, he did not care about this kind of small battle at all. Moreover, it was not a battle against the ancient era's warship. Lin Yi was not in the mood to say much. He came to Okuda Ba and asked directly, Brother Okuda, is there any surveillance footage that can show the battle clearly? If it was really Languza fighting there, Lin Yi would help no matter what. However, on the ancient era's warship, although his divine sense could extend over, it would be weakened by the defensive layer. In addition, the fluctuations of the battle were intense. Lin Yi was not confident that he could get an accurate and clear picture. Therefore, he came to the bridge to see the surveillance footage. Okuda Ba did not think much about it. He only thought that Lin Yi was curious about the scene of the sea beasts fighting. Therefore, he smiled and said, Of course there is. You have a good eye. One of the sea beasts is in the mountain opening stage. Although the other one has not reached the mountain opening stage, its combat power is not weaker than that of the mountain opening stage. It is still very interesting. As he spoke, Okuda Ba quickly controlled the surveillance formation and then projected an image generated by the surveillance formation in front of him. This method was much more sophisticated than the technological surveillance in the secular world. However, it was slightly weaker in terms of distance. After all, the secular world could still be monitored through satellites, but the surveillance formation on the ancient era's warship could only cover 1,000 miles of sea at most. Lin Yi looked at the image. There were two sea beasts in battle. One was a huge octopus-like, multi-legged, soft-bodied sea beast, and the other was a blue sea dragon. Was that Languza bastard? Okuda Ba praised. Brother Lin, look, it's actually a sea dragon. Last time we encountered a sea dragon. I didn't expect to see another sea dragon today. Although it's weak, it has a chance to evolve into a sea dragon. No wonder it can fight against a mountain opening stage sea beast with the strength of a mysterious ascending stage. Lin Yi breathed out a sigh of relief. Just as Okuda Ba had said, Languza might still be in the ascending stage, but he wasn't at a disadvantage against the giant octopus at the early stage of the mountain opening stage. As expected of a mutated sea serpent, its strength was unparalleled. Chapter 58-65. This kind of battle was a rare experience for Languza. If Lin Yi interfered, it wouldn't benefit him at all. Only through constant tough battles could he obtain the opportunity to evolve. Brother Okuda, who do you think will win? Lin Yi asked, pretending to be chatting casually. Okuda laughed and said, that's hard to say. Although the sea serpent is strong, it's only at the profound ascension stage. It's still a long way from reaching the peak stage. As for the octopus, it's a solid early mountain opening stage. If it wasn't for the sea serpent's king aura suppressing part of the octopus's strength, it would have been killed by the octopus. In my opinion, it's more likely that both sides will suffer. Both sides suffer? That might not be the case. Lin Yi smiled faintly. He was very confident in Languza. It's just a battle between realms, it's not difficult. Brother Lin, are you interested in these two sea monsters? If you want to capture or kill them, just say the word. Okuda waved his hand. With the strength of the ancient warship, dealing with two mountain opening stage sea monsters was easy, not to mention that the sea serpent wasn't even at the mountain opening stage yet. Lin Yi smiled and said, I'm interested in that sea serpent, but I don't need Brother Okuda's help. I'll fly over to take a look later. If possible, I'll form a good relationship with the sea serpent. At that time, Brother Okuda just needs to open the defensive layer and let me out. Okuda was slightly startled. Brother Lin, with your strength, riding a flying spirit beast won't be too dangerous. But with the ancient warship, why take the risk? Brother Okuda, don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Right, lend me one of the flying spirit beasts on the ship. Wait for my signal and open the defensive layer. Lin Yi did not explain much. This was a good opportunity for Languza to appear. In addition, he also wanted to watch Languza closely, lest this guy really perish together with the octopus. Seeing that Lin Yi was so insistent, Okuda didn't say anything else. He nodded and said, in that case, Brother Lin, you should be careful. I will prepare the starfall array. If any sea beast dares to attack you, we will kill it. Lin Yi broke out in a cold sweat and said, Brother Okuda, let's forget about the starfall array. It's too powerful and consumes too much energy. An ordinary offensive array will do. With Okuda's rough control, Lin Yi was very worried that the starfall array would accidentally land on his head before it could kill the sea beast. That would be too unfair. So, for safety's sake, it was better to let Okuda give up on this idea. You're right, the starfall array is my trump card. I can't use it easily. Forget it, just be careful. I will support you at any time. Okuda smiled and patted Lin Yi's shoulder. He then turned around and asked someone to prepare a flying spirit beast for Lin Yi. Lin Yi thanked him and immediately left the bridge. He returned to the deck and waited for the flying spirit beast to arrive. At this time, Samurai quickly walked over and cupped his fists. Master Lin, did those two sea beasts affect you? Lin Yi had spent a lot of money to buy the truth recovery grass. Spirit jades were secondary, but the truth recovery pill couldn't have any problems. It was related to the safety of the person behind him. So when he saw Lin Yi come out, Samurai was naturally a little worried. Lin Yi originally said that he would give him the pill tomorrow. It wasn't appropriate to take it out now. So he casually smiled and said, it's all right. Don't worry, just come back tomorrow. Vice Sect Leader Ling, did you really ask this guy to refine the truth recovery pill? Then you have to be mentally prepared. I don't think you can get your truth recovery grass back. Zheng Dongjue suddenly interjected with a sneer. He had a worried expression on his face as though he was acting the truth. Samurai's face slightly sank. He coldly said, Vice Hall Leader Zheng, what do you mean by that? Are you trying to sow discord between me and Master Lin? Zheng Tianqing, who was next to Zheng Dongjue, stared at Samurai disdainfully and said, a dog bites Lu Dongbin. You don't know how to appreciate good intentions. You are a country bumpkin. You are really stupid and pitiful. Don't you know that if you ask an alchemist to refine a pill, the alchemist will not bear any responsibility if it fails? So what? Samurai didn't want to pay attention to Zheng Tianqing, but he still wanted to hear what he had to say. So he subconsciously asked. As for asking an alchemist to refine a pill, if it failed, it was equivalent to getting nothing. As the vice sect leader of the Thousand Blade sect, of course he was clear about this. This was also the rule of the alchemist industry. Otherwise, if the alchemist failed, he would have to pay for it out of his own pocket. Then who the hell would refine a pill for you? A country bumpkin is a country bumpkin. You still ask, so what? Zheng Tianqing looked at Ling Wuzong with pity in his eyes as if talking to him was a great charity. I'll teach you a lesson today. An alchemist's alchemy isn't as simple as you think. Under normal circumstances, after refining a pill, you need to rest for a period of time. The length of this period is determined by the grade of the pill you're refining. For example, for a Huang level 7 pill, you need to rest for at least 10 days to half a month after refining. Do you understand what I mean? Ling Wuzong was slightly taken aback. He wasn't an alchemist, so he really didn't know what was going on. Those alchemists who concocted pills for others usually wouldn't say such things out loud. However, it was true that alchemists of the 6th or 7th level would only accept a commission every 10 days to half a month. Ling Wuzong was aware of this. Thinking about how Linny had just refined the yin and yang pill before, how long had it been? But he said that he could successfully refine the pill tomorrow. When Samurai thought of this, he couldn't help but feel a little flustered. Zheng Dongjue laughed. Vice Master Ling, we're thinking for your sake. You asked Lin Yi to concoct the elixir, but he clearly just concocted the yin-yang pill. He won't be able to concoct any more in the near future. If he promised you that he would be able to concoct the elixir in 2 days, he'll most likely take your grass of recovery. I advise you to get the grass back. Zheng Tianqing also said, our Dan Hall's Master Li Zhao's alchemy level is much better than this guy's. After refining a pill, he also needs to rest for many days. Do you really think that this guy is better than Master Li Zhao? Chapter 5866. Any sect that wasn't part of the 10 small sects would give it their all as long as they got the reserve qualification, regardless of whether they had the ability or not. What if they succeeded? Alright, Tyrant Blade Sect's challenge to High Feather Sect will begin immediately. You all know the rules, right? The Great Elder of the ruined town nodded and continued, I will repeat the rules again. The rest of you listen up. The rules of the 10 small sects challenge this time are the same as before. There will still be 3 matches. Nascent Soul, Golden Core and Foundation Establishment will each have 1 match. 2 wins out of 3 matches. If the challenge is successful, the challenger will advance to the 10 small sects, and the challenge will be the last reserve. If the first 4 challenges are successful, they will still have the chance to challenge the 10 small sects again. They can also choose to give up. The second reserve will advance to the first reserve and continue to have the right to challenge the 10 small sections. They can also challenge those who have just advanced. If they fail, the order will not change. The second reserve will not have the right to challenge the 10 small sects unless they choose to gamble. Do you all understand? The Great Elder of the ruined town explained the rules unhurriedly. In fact, everyone knew that it was just a formality. Wei Dao cupped his fists respectfully and bowed. Thank you for your explanation, Elder. We all understand. Tyrant Blade Sect's first Foundation Establishment battle will be fought by us juniors. The Great Elder of Ruins Town made a sound of acknowledgement, then turned to the Xuanyu School's side and said, who will be participating in the Xuanyu School's Foundation Establishment competition? Come up the stage immediately. I'll do it. A Foundation Establishment Perfection disciple stood up from High Feather Sect's camp and walked up the stage with an imposing manner. High Feather Sect's Yu Lingfeng is here to accept the challenge. Yu Lingfeng said expressionlessly. His eyes revealed traces of anger. Although the High Feather School was one of the weaker sects among the 10 minor sects, they were not the weakest of the 10 minor sects. The Tyrant Blade School had chosen the High Feather School right from the start. They had really underestimated the High Feather School. It would be strange if Yu Lingfeng treated Wei Dao well. Wei Dao shrugged and laughed strangely. What an imposing manner. I wonder what will happen when they fight. Hopefully they aren't just paper tigers. Tyrant Blade Sect's Wei Dao. Before his voice faded away, Wei Dao pulled out his thick-backed long saber with a shake of his hand and swung it toward Yu Lingfeng's body. The Great Elder of the Ruins Town raised his eyebrows slightly. He had not announced the start of the fight, but Wei Dao had already made the first move. Strictly speaking, this was against the rules. However, the Great Elder of the Ruins Town was originally a member of the Qingkuan sect, and the Tyrant Blade School was a branch of the Qingkuan sect. Of course, he would ignore such a small detail if he could. Yu Lingfeng narrowed his eyes. Even though he didn't expect Wei Dao to suddenly attack, he didn't panic in the slightest. With a light tap of his foot, he flew into the air. At the same time, he raised his hands and dozens of steel short feathers shot out. Wei Dao's long saber moved horizontally and horizontally. The momentum of the saber was fierce and tyrannical. It was worthy of the name, tyrannical. Before Yu Lingfeng's steel short feathers could get close, they were engulfed by the momentum of Wei Dao's saber and completely lost their accuracy. Petty tricks. Is this all the Shenyu School can do? Wei Dao laughed crazily as he stepped forward. The momentum of his saber increased once again. The steel short feathers that were engulfed by the saber all fell to the ground. They didn't even have the ability to stop Wei Dao. However, Yu Lingfeng, who was in the air, didn't show any signs of panic. Instead, there was a faint mocking smile on his face. With a shake of his hands, his body, which had already started to fall, suddenly rose again. It was as if he had a pair of invisible wings on his back. Light feather arrow. Yu Lingfeng ignored Wei Dao's provocation. He only let out a low roar, and the true energy in his body surged. The steel short feathers that had been engulfed by Wei Dao's saber actually flew back to Wei Dao from the ground. Not only that, the steel short feathers that flew back gave off a faint white light. Whether it was speed or strength, they were more than twice as strong as before. In an instant, the steel short feathers were within half a foot of Wei Dao's body. If there were no changes, Wei Dao's body would immediately have dozens of bloody holes. Haha, interesting. Facing this kind of danger, Wei Dao actually laughed twice. The saber in his hand did not change direction, but his feet moved strangely a few times. With just a slight movement of his body, Yu Lingfeng's light feather arrow flew past Wei Dao's body. The closest one even scratched Wei Dao's clothes, leaving a small hole. However, it still didn't hurt Wei Dao in the slightest. In the air, Yu Lingfeng's expression finally changed slightly. At this time, Wei Dao's saber, which carried an unparalleled saber momentum, had already closed in on Yu Lingfeng. Yu Lingfeng could only shake his arms again and change his body in the air for the second time. This was already his limit. No matter how agile the Xianyu school's movement technique was, Yu Lingfeng was still only at the foundation establishment stage. If he still couldn't shake off Wei Dao's pursuit, then he could only face Wei Dao's saber head-on. In order to save his life, Yu Lingfeng yelled when he changed his body, "Turn!" The fine steel short feathers that flew past Wei Dao immediately turned around nimbly like fish in water and shot towards Wei Dao again. At such a close distance, Yu Lingfeng did not believe that Wei Dao could use his footwork to dodge. Even if he could dodge, it would definitely affect the momentum of his blade. If that was the case, it would at least give Yu Lingfeng a chance to catch his breath. Wei Dao laughed disdainfully and said, "Have you exhausted your limited abilities? Then there's nothing fun to do." As he spoke, the saber momentum didn't change. After a slight adjustment, it continued to chase after Yu Lingfeng. As for the fine steel short feathers that turned into light feather arrows, Wei Dao didn't continue to use his footwork to dodge. Instead, he held the saber sheath in his left hand and used it as a saber to slash again. The ferocious saber momentum instantly split the air in front of Wei Dao, emitting a violent sonic boom. The fine steel short feathers that were flying towards Yu Lingfeng were completely cut off by this saber. One by one they bounced off to both sides. Some of them were even directly chopped into pieces by the saber momentum. Yu Lingfeng's expression finally changed completely. He thought that Wei Dao's previous saber strike was the result of him going all out. He didn't expect that it was completely not the case. From this saber strike, it could be seen that Wei Dao had held back a lot of strength. In other words, this saber strike that chased after Yu Lingfeng was just a casual strike from Wei Dao. When did Wei Dao of the Tyrant Saber sect become so powerful? With this kind of strength, even if he were to jump levels and deal with a weaker early-stage gold core cultivator, it wouldn't be a problem, right? These thoughts flashed through Yu Lingfeng's mind in a flash. Then Wei Dao's saber had already arrived in front of him. Chapter 58-69. But if Samurai chose to believe Lin Yi, then in Lin Yi's heart, he would really become a worthy friend. Where did this mad dog come from barking here so annoying? If you don't get out of here, watch out for my stick. Seeing that Lin Yi had come back, Wei Xinjin hurried to greet him, and happened to hear Zheng Tianqing's words, so he immediately turned hostile and mocked. Zheng Tianqing's eyes turned cold and he said coldly, "You're courting death. We'll know who's courting death after we fight." Wei Xinjin retorted without showing any weakness. Zheng Tianqing thought of himself as a genius, but he, Wei Xinjin, was definitely not inferior. Originally, Wei Xinjin was recognized as a genius disciple of the Snow Sword faction. After following Lin Yi, he had enough elixirs to take, so he did not need to worry about cultivation resources at all. In terms of strength, he could also suppress Zheng Tianqing, so he was not afraid of this arrogant genius of the East Continent at all. Samurai took a deep breath, stood between the two and said, "Young heroes, don't make unnecessary disputes. We are all in the same boat, so it's better to make peace. Since I chose to ask Master Lin to help me refine elixirs, it is naturally because I believe in Master Lin, so no matter whether he succeeds or fails, I will support Master Lin to continue refining elixirs. Deputy Hall Leader Zheng, you don't need to worry about me. To be honest, after listening to the words of the two people of the Zheng family, Samurai inevitably felt a little uneasy, but he also knew that if he proposed to restore the elixir now, he would really offend Lin Yi. As the owner of the Tiandan Pavilion and the honorary deputy captain of the ancient warship, if he dared to propose to restore the elixir, it was equal to saying in public that Lin Yi wanted to steal his elixir. How stupid would he be to do that? Did the Thousand Blades faction still want to stay on the ship? Since that was the case, Samurai of course had to firmly express his belief in Lin Yi. Lin Yi didn't know that Samurai had thought of so many ideas in such a short time. Anyway, he was satisfied with the result. Wei Shinjin, we have to give face to Vice Sect Master Ling. There's no need to bother with those boring people. Lin Yi smiled faintly as he spoke to Wei Shinjin. Then he turned to Samurai and said, Vice Sect Leader Ling, don't worry. Once Lin Yi say something, I will always do it. Come and get the pills tomorrow. If I don't have any pills for you, I will compensate you twice the amount. Master Lin is too serious. Samurai hurriedly cupped his fists and said, I believe that Master Lin will definitely succeed. Even if something goes wrong, our Thousand Blades faction won't pester endlessly and ask for any losses. This is all within a reasonable range. If Master Lin says this again, I'm going to die. Lin Yi smiled faintly and waved his hand. All right, Vice Sect Leader Ling, let's cut to the chase. There will be results tomorrow. My Lin Yi's reputation isn't something that can be destroyed by a mere stalk of truth restoration grass. Samurai heard this and immediately calmed down. That's right. With Lin Yi's reputation, let alone a stalk of truth restoration grass, even 10 or 100 times more wouldn't be able to match it. In that case, the possibility of successfully refining the truth restoration pill was indeed very high. Lin Yi really didn't play a trick. At this time, the flying spirit beast on the ancient warship was sent over. After Lin Yi rode on it, he called out to Hong Zhong, Ho Guanqi and the others. Then he soared into the sky through the gap in the defensive layer and flew towards the battlefield in the distance. Hong Zhong and the others were very surprised. They didn't understand why Lin Yi wanted to fly there, but now they couldn't ask. The gap in the ancient warship was closed again. Even if they wanted to follow, it was impossible. They could only wait for Lin Yi to return. When Zheng Tianqing saw Lin Yi suddenly fly out, he secretly rejoiced in his heart. He only hoped that Lin Yi would die outside. It would save him a lot of trouble. Zheng Dongjue said in a low voice, Tianqing, do you think Lin Yi can really refine pills continuously? The yin and yang pill is not a simple pill. Moreover, he refined it alone. To be honest, I find it a little strange that he can be so lively now. How can he refine the truth restoration pill? Second Grandpa, let's not talk about the yin and yang pill. If Lin Yi can really refine pills continuously, I guess it's because he took a pill to restore his vitality. However, this method for an alchemist is simply drinking poison to quench thirst. It can't solve the fundamental problem. Let's not talk about whether he has enough pills to recover. If he eats too much of this kind of thing, it will produce pill toxins. It will have a great impact on cultivation and alchemy. Zheng Tianqing was also an excellent alchemist, so he immediately gave his own guess. Zheng Dongjue clapped his hands and whispered with a smile, Tianqing, you're right. Lin Yi definitely took a pill to restore his vitality. In addition to wanting to make a fortune, I guess he also wants to show off on this ship. Anyway, there's no loss if he fails. If he succeeds, it will be great. Second Grandpa, I thought of a wonderful plan. Zheng Tianqing's eyes lit up. He whispered in Zheng Dongjue's ear, since this fool Lin Yi wants to show off and earn spirit jades, let's satisfy his vanity. Arrange for someone to take a profound level 1 pill to him to refine pills. Let him constantly consume the pills to restore his vitality. In this way, when we get to the extreme North Island, he can only be at our mercy. Zheng Dongjue pulled Zheng Tianqing to a secluded place. He lowered his voice to a barely audible level and said, Tianqing, your idea is very good. It's not worse than Tong Wulsuo's. You really are our Zheng family's Qilin. Zheng Tianqing had a proud look on his face, but he still pretended to be humble and said, Second Grandpa, you flatter me, it's just a flash of inspiration. The only problem now is, do we have enough main ingredients for the Mystic Level 1 pills? Don't worry. We are representing the Dan Hall. How can we be short of elixirs? If Lin Yi succeeds in refining the elixirs, the value of the elixirs will increase by several times. If he fails, it will also ruin his reputation. Whether he succeeds or fails, as long as he refines the elixirs, we have achieved our goal. This plan is simply perfect. The more Jing Dongjue thought about it, the more reliable he felt. Before, he still looked down on Jing Tianqing. He felt that this kid was somewhat unworthy of his reputation. He didn't expect that today he would look at him in a new light. Both of them felt that the plan was perfect. So they didn't discuss it with Tong Wulsuo and Jing Dongxing. They directly began to look for candidates. They were ready to wait for Lin Yi to come back and ask for the elixirs. Lin Yi didn't know that there would be such a good thing waiting for him. He was now close to the sea where the battle took place. Chapter 5870. Languza didn't show any weakness. The sea dragon's body was extremely tyrannical, and Languza's body had been mutated and tempered by thunder and lightning. The strength of his body was comparable to that of a sea dragon. Although the octopus's whip was painful, it wasn't enough to cause fatal damage to Languza. Therefore, these two guys almost gave up using martial arts to attack. They were completely exchanging injuries for injuries, using the simplest and most brutal way to fight for their lives. Lin Yi secretly shook his head. This guy, Languza, thought that he had made some progress, but he was still so reckless. This sea area wasn't a safe place. The sea beasts in the early stage of the mountain opening stage weren't very powerful. Were they making such a big noise because they were afraid that the powerful sea beasts wouldn't know that there was a delicious meal here? If they continued to let them fight, let alone these two guys, even Lin Yi's fleet would probably encounter danger. Therefore Lin Yi, who originally didn't plan to intervene, now changed his mind. Languza, if you can't kill this octopus in 1 minute, I will make my move. Lin Yi transmitted his voice to Languza. If he could really kill this octopus in 1 minute, it would be the best thing. Languza had already seen Lin Yi coming over, but the battle was fierce, so he didn't dare to be distracted. Now that he heard the boss's order, Languza suddenly became excited. Boss, rest assured I will finish the battle in 1 minute. However, I want to eat grilled octopus skewers. I'm tired of eating sashimi these days. While talking, Languza launched the most violent attack. With Lin Yi on the side, he didn't need to hold back. Going all out was the wisest thing to do. Lin Yi couldn't help but smile. This foodie really wouldn't forget to eat no matter where he went. It was really hard for him. In this sea, he didn't have the fire attribute. If he didn't eat raw, what else could he eat? Don't even think about grilled octopus skewers. Before you return to my side, think of a way to solve it yourself. Lin Yi couldn't be bothered with this foodie. If he really grilled octopus skewers for him, who knew if he would get an emperor crab for Lin Yi to help him steam it? Languza muttered, lamenting that he could only continue to live a pitiful life of eating raw meat and drinking blood. He then vented all his dissatisfaction on the octopus. Unfortunately, the octopus was truly powerful. No matter how hard Languza tried, he couldn't take it down in a short period of time. Lin Yi waited for the minute to be up and immediately waved his soul-reaping hand, directly hooking the octopus's essence soul. This was the essence soul of a sea beast at the mountain opening stage. Of course, the strength of its essence soul was only at the early mysterious ascension stage compared to a human. But this was not important. The important thing was that the essence soul of this sea beast was enough to support Lin Yi's spiritual sense consumption for many days. Languza opened his huge mouth and bit the body of the octopus sea beast. He secretly dug out the inner Dan and handed it to Lin Yi. At the same time, he also gave Lin Yi 3 mysterious ascension stage and 5 nascent soul stage sea beast inner dawn. This was probably the result of swallowing them in the past few days. It seemed that his appetite was still good. In the future, don't do things that you're not sure of. If you get swallowed instead, you won't have a place to cry. Lin Yi quickly put away the inner dawn and once again exhorted. Languza smiled and said, "Boss, don't worry, I won't do it next time. Today was just a coincidence. I didn't deliberately provoke this guy. Fortunately, boss came to help me. After I eat this guy, there won't be any problem in leveling up. Maybe I can directly reach the peak of the mysterious ascension stage. If I encounter this kind of strength again, I can handle it by myself." "Okay, you do what you want, be careful." Lin Yi waved his hand and let Languza leave quickly. Although it was a little dangerous, Languza's strength was obviously improving. Maybe it won't be long before this guy can enter the mountain opening stage. Languza nodded slightly and said, "Okay boss, take care, I'll go first." After that, he used his mouth to bite the body of the octopus, circled around and dived to the bottom of the sea. The most urgent thing for Languza was to find a quiet place to properly digest the octopus and transform it into his own strength. Lin Yi did not delay and controlled the flying spirit beast to fly back to the ancient warship. The people on the deck saw that Lin Yi seemed to be communicating with the sea dragon. They were very curious about him, but no one came over to say anything. At this stage, the spiritual wisdom of sea beasts was no different from that of humans. It was not surprising that they could communicate with each other. After returning the flying spirit beast, Lin Yi did not go to Okuda Ba again. Instead, he directly returned to his room and continued to refine elixirs. No matter what, he had promised Samurai that he would give him elixirs tomorrow. Today he had to pretend to be serious about alchemy. The fleet also continued to move forward according to the established route and quickly left the sea. Fortunately, they did not encounter any other powerful sea beasts. It could be said that it was very peaceful. The next morning, Samurai came to Lin Yi's door and waited. In addition to him, there were two other people who came to ask for elixirs. One was the person who entrusted Lin Yi to refine a 7th grade yellow rank elixir yesterday. The other was the person who brought the herbs to Lin Yi to refine a 1st grade mystic rank elixir. Of course, this was secretly arranged by Zheng Dongjue and Zheng Tianqing. Lin Yi saw that Samurai had come. He did not let him wait for long. He opened the room's restriction and invited him in. As for the other two, they continued to wait. Master Lin, is the alchemy over? Samurai asked with some apprehension. He was afraid that Lin Yi would say that it was a failure. He was also worried that he came too early and affected him. Anyway, before seeing the Zhen Fu Dan, Samurai's mood could not calm down. Lin Yi smiled slightly. He took out a jade bottle containing a Zhen Fu Dan and handed it to Samurai. Fortunately, I did not disappoint you. The Zhen Fu Dan was successfully refined. Thank you, Vice Sect Leader Ling, for believing in me. Samurai was overjoyed. The big stone in his heart finally fell. After taking the jade bottle, he did not immediately check it. Instead, he cupped his fists and said to Lin Yi, Master Lin is really a man of his word. I deeply admire you. As for believing in Master Lin's words, to tell you the truth, my heart has been a little uneasy. Now that I got the elixir, I dare to say that I am completely at ease. Lin Yi had a deep impression of Samurai's frankness. This person was really worth befriending. If Samurai said some beautiful words, it would make him feel disappointed. Chapter 5871. Samurai was even more overjoyed. To be able to obtain Lin Yi's friendship might be more valuable than the Zhen Fu pill in his hands. He immediately thanked him and then opened the jade bottle to take a look. This glance almost made Samurai throw the jade bottle in his hand. He never thought that the Zhen Fu pill that Lin Yi refined was actually of special quality. After grabbing the jade bottle in a hurry, Samurai's gaze towards Lin Yi completely changed. At first, he had some doubts about whether Lin Yi could concoct the pill after listening to the two from House Zhang's. Even if he was confident in himself in the end, it was only because Lin Yi hadn't been concocting the yin yang pill for long. It would be good enough if he could concoct a low-level pill. If he could concoct a mid-level pill, then he would be lucky. As for the superior quality Zhen Fu pill, Samurai almost didn't dare to hope for it. But what was it now? Now it was a special quality Zhen Fu pill. A mystic level 1 alchemist who had never refined a Zhen Fu pill before could refine a special quality one? Even if Samurai didn't know much about alchemy, he wouldn't think that such a thing would happen. In other words, Lin Yi was likely to be a mystic level 2 alchemist. This wasn't a simple matter of one level higher. The status of a mystic level 2 alchemist and a mystic level 1 alchemist couldn't be mentioned in the same breath. If Samurai was only full of respect for Lin Yi before, then it had risen to the level of awe. Master Lin, I didn't expect you to be a mystic level 2 alchemist. No wonder you can refine the yin and yang pill alone. And you're still so young. It's really amazing. Samurai put away the jade bottle and bowed respectfully. Lin Yi didn't explain. Anyway, with his current strength, Shinong Cauldron could also refine a mystic level 2 alchemist, so it wasn't wrong to say that he was a mystic level 2 alchemist. However, the yin and yang pill wasn't something that a mystic level 2 alchemist could refine alone. Without the help of Lin Yi's automatic alchemy system, one must have water and fire dual spiritual roots and be able to fuse yin and yang. Otherwise, even a mystic level 7 alchemist would need two people to refine it. After knowing Lin Yi's true alchemy ability, Samurai couldn't help but be more cautious. After saying a few words, he got up and left. After all, there were still two people waiting outside. He didn't know if he was delaying Lin Yi's time. In any case, Samurai had decided to be on good terms with Lin Yi. Having such a powerful alchemist as a friend would be of great benefit to the entire Thousand Blades sect. After sending away Samurai, Lin Yi let the second person come in and give him the refined alchemy. There was nothing much to say. It was just a yellow level 7 alchemy pill. The other party was naturally very satisfied with the quality of the alchemy pill. Lin Yi didn't care and sent him away. Zheng Tianqing, who was peeking at the situation from a corner, was secretly happy. He turned to Zheng Dongjue and said, "Second grandpa, look at Samurai and Lin Yi." They both came out with smiles on their faces. Obviously they got the alchemy pill. It seems that Lin Yi really used the alchemy pill to restore his physical strength. The next one is our people. Did you arrange for more people to come in? If it's just one person refining alchemy, Lin Yi won't completely collapse. Don't worry, I arranged for 4 people. All 4 of them are Mystic Level 1 alchemy pills. I heard that he rejected a lot of commissions for Yellow Level 7 alchemy pills yesterday. I guess it's because there are too few spirit jades, so he doesn't want them. Zheng Dongjue sneered and said lightly, "Today's orders are all Mystic Level 1 alchemy pills. Let's see if he has the guts to take them all." The first person went in and came out after a few minutes. He made a secret gesture at the door of Lin Yi, indicating that he had successfully commissioned Lin Yi to refine alchemy pills. At the same time, the people who were arranged later also arrived and entered Lin Yi's room one by one. Zheng Dongjue and Zheng Tianqing couldn't help but feel a little nervous. They wanted Lin Yi to take on all of them, but they were also worried that if Lin Yi really took on all of them and failed, it'd be too big of a loss for them. The main ingredients of Mystic Level 1 alchemy pills were expensive and rare spirit grass. Not to mention, in order to ask Lin Yi to refine alchemy pills, Zheng Dongjue also put in a lot of effort. If he could prepare 2 sets of spirit jades, then he prepared 2 sets of spirit jades. If he didn't have 2 sets, he also brought enough spirit jades. The amount of spirit jades given to Lin Yi was a total of 15 million. This was not a small amount. Even if it was the Vice Hall Master of the Dan Hall, taking out so many spirit jades all at once would be quite painful. The second commission was successful, the third commission was successful, and the fourth finally came out. It was still a successful commission. Zheng Dongjue and Zheng Tianqing quietly retreated. Their hearts were half happy and half worried, but their plan was finally carried out smoothly. If Lin Yi really took the alchemy pill to recover, then he would be courting death. Lin Yi didn't expect his business to be so good. It seemed that reputation was really important. Yesterday it was all Yellow Level 7 alchemy pills, and today it was 4 Mystic Level 1 alchemy pills in a row. If it was an ordinary alchemist, they would at most earn some spirit jades, but he was different. With the Shinong cauldron in his hand, the harvest of an alchemy pill was a sure thing. Coupled with the 15 million spirit jades as a reward, it was really enough to earn. If Lin Yi knew that this was all arranged by Zheng Dongjue and Zheng Tianqing, he would give them 32 points of praise. They were really too considerate to be enemies to this extent. They sent alchemy recipes, alchemy pills and spirit jades. As a responsible enemy, Lin Yi would only say one sentence to them. "Is there more?" After the 4 orders were completed, it was almost the beginning of a new day. Calculating the time, it was almost the northern island. Lin Yi did not continue to refine alchemy pills. After putting away the Shinong cauldron, he stood up and stretched his body. He felt quite happy. This time, although he had not participated in the auction on the northern island, Lin Yi had already gained a lot. With such good luck, if he could continue to the auction, it would be very easy to get what he wanted. The sky was still dark. Lin Yi came to the deck and looked up at the sky full of stars. He only felt that his fatigue quickly dissipated. If it wasn't for Zheng Tianqing, this idiot, coming over, he would be more happy. "Lin Yi, I heard that you received a lot of alchemy pills. Why don't you hurry to refine alchemy pills? Could it be that you failed, so you secretly ran to the deck in the middle of the night to cry?" Zheng Tianqing said with a laugh. Although if Lin Yi failed, it would be their Zheng family's loss, he was satisfied to see Lin Yi suffer. Chapter 58-72. Lin Yi didn't want to talk to this idiot at all. He still looked up at the starry sky. If he wasn't on the ancient warship, maybe he could kill this guy directly. Zheng Tianqing didn't seem to have any awareness. He came over and sneered, "What's wrong? Did you really fail? Or do you want to use the failure as an excuse to swallow the elixirs entrusted to you by others?" Lin Yi turned his head to look at Zheng Tianqing impatiently and said faintly, "Who are you? Do I know you well? Can you get out of the way quietly?" Zheng Tianqing's face stiffened. Then he thought of something and laughed. "I poked your sore spot, so you became angry out of shame? I thought you were a great alchemist. Not only can you refine elixirs continuously, but you can also guarantee a very high success rate. It seems that it was all an illusion you pretended to be. In the end, you just want to take the opportunity to get some elixirs, right?" Speaking of this, Zheng Tianqing was almost sure of his guess. Lin Yi definitely failed in alchemy. Now he wanted to use words to squeeze Lin Yi. Maybe his Zheng family could still get back their losses. Hey Master Lin. Tell me, how many people are you going to cheat this time? I heard that those people went to you because of your high success rate. If you didn't complete any of them, it would be too embarrassing, right? How about it? Why don't you beg this young master to come forward and put in a good word for you? Maybe he won't bother with you then? Zheng Tianqing was extremely proud in his heart, and his mouth kept mocking Xiao Qian. Lin Yi glanced at Zheng Tianqing faintly. He felt a little strange in his heart. Those people who asked him to refine elixirs shouldn't go around announcing it. Why did this idiot seem to know it like the back of his hand? If there was no trick in this, he would never believe it. But it didn't matter. Anyway, Lin Yi made a lot of profits from these orders. Since he didn't suffer a loss and even got a big bargain, there was no need to be calculative. Does my business have anything to do with you? If you don't have enough IQ, go back and read more books. Don't always come out and embarrass yourself. Your grandfather is already so old. You should at least give him some face. Lin Yi said sarcastically. He felt that it was a waste of time to talk to this kind of person, so he turned around and prepared to return to his room. If he had the free time, he might as well continue to refine a batch of pills. Zheng Tianqing was furious. If he didn't know that he was no match for Lin Yi, he might have already attacked Lin Yi. Surnamed Lin, don't be too arrogant. You used the excuse of failing to concoct pills to swallow other people's spiritual herbs. This kind of thing is simply smearing the face of all alchemists. This young master will absolutely not tolerate scum like you. Just you wait, this young master will definitely let everyone see your true colors. From now on, let's see who will still ask you to concoct pills. Zheng Tianqing pointed his finger at Lin Yi and roared with righteous indignation. Unfortunately, his acting was so bad that he didn't look like an emissary of justice at all. Instead, he looked more like an angry mad dog. Idiot. Lin Yi turned his head disdainfully and said, if I fail to concoct pills, I will naturally take out items of equal value as compensation. Do you think that your Zheng family is a scoundrel who uses failure to help others concoct pills as an excuse to make money? Who is a scoundrel? Surnamed Lin, stop right there. If you don't make things clear today, don't even think about leaving. Zheng Tianqing wanted to stop Lin Yi. In fact, when he heard that Lin Yi would compensate with items of equal value, he was already satisfied. However, this involved the reputation of the Zheng family, so he still had to fight for it. Otherwise, if others heard it, they would really think that the Zheng family had done something bad. If he just said it, Lin Yi wouldn't care about him. However, when this guy heard that Lin Yi would compensate him, he got carried away and became a little muddle-headed. He actually subconsciously wanted to stop Lin Yi, and the result was tragic. Lin Yi just waved his hand and opened Zheng Tianqing's outstretched palm. He didn't use much strength, but this guy flew out with a whoosh. When the palm hit back, it happened to hit Zheng Tianqing's own mouth. Several big teeth fell out of his mouth. The gap between the two sides' levels was too big. Lin Yi was also speechless. He just wanted to teach this guy a lesson, but he didn't expect the effect to be so exaggerated. Well, it seemed that after the improvement of his strength, his control had somewhat declined. He needed to practice more. Lin Yi nodded and walked back leisurely. As for Zheng Tianqing, who had been sent flying by Lin Yi's palm, he was pressed against the side of the ship, his mouth bleeding profusely. He looked at Lin Yi's back with a face full of fear. Without really fighting with him, Zheng Tianqing couldn't even imagine how big the gap between him and Lin Yi was. Now it was just a small contact, and the strength Lin Yi showed was not even the tip of the iceberg, but it had already made him feel an indelible sense of fear in his heart. The experience of being poisoned in the restaurant last time also came to his mind again. For a time, Zheng Tianqing seemed to be a little sluggish. He was dumbfounded on the spot and didn't move for a long time. Lin Yi naturally didn't care what this guy thought in his heart. After he returned to his room, he began to practice. He didn't feel much about the passage of time. Unconsciously, Lin Yi felt that the ancient battleship's full ship announcement sounded again. Distinguished guests, in 2 hours we will arrive at the northernmost island. Please prepare for landing. Are we arriving already? Lin Yi stood up and muttered to himself in surprise. This time the speed was still relatively fast, but thinking that this was a fleet, he was relieved. Before, he seemed to have heard that a fleet composed of high-level ships, arranged in a special formation, would have a speed bonus. It seemed that this was not a lie. Lin Yi thought that if there was a chance in the future, he would still learn some knowledge and skills in this regard. With a ready-made teacher like this ghost, it would be a waste not to learn more things. Releasing his divine sense, he noticed that Wei Xinjin had already come to the door of his room. Lin Yi casually opened the restriction and walked out. Are you not with Miss Shang today? Boss. Wei Shenjin's face was slightly hot. He grinned and greeted. Yu Hua and her father are in the small restaurant. They will disembark in 2 hours. Should we also go and eat something first? You really like the food on this ship. Do you want to have a good meal before disembarking? Lin Yi said with a smile, not declining the offer. He touched the restrictions on the other rooms. Let's ask them if they want to go with us. Chapter 5873. Originally, when they were on the ship, they wanted to get together and have a good discussion with each other. In the end, Lin Yi was either refining pills in seclusion or cultivating in seclusion. There was really no chance for them to chat. Since there was still some time, they could eat and chat together to make up for some regrets. When they arrived at the dining hall, they saw Shang Yuhua standing up and waving to them. She and Shang Wani were already sitting at a round table waiting. It was more than enough to accommodate Lin Yi and the others. But before Lin Yi could go over, the 4 people who asked him to concoct the pills all popped out of nowhere, as if they had planned it beforehand. They had a meaningful smile on their faces as they cupped their fists and said, "Master Lin, our pills are done, right?" Wei Shenjin did not know the mystery, but he was very polite to the 4 people. "You can come to see Master Lin later. Now we have to go eat first. As for the matter of refining pills, let's wait for Master Lin to finish eating, okay?" Hong Zhong was indeed an old fox who had been in the business world for many years. He saw a clue from the expressions of the 4 people. Normal people who asked for pills would not be as arrogant as the 4 of them, so he quietly stepped forward and stood beside Lin Yi. This subconscious action also showed that Hong Zhong and Lin Yi's determination to advance and retreat together, which made Lin Yi's heart slightly warm. It was still very happy to have such a friend by his side. However, Lin Yi did not need them to worry about refining pills. Everything was under his control, so he smiled and patted Wei Shenjin's shoulder. "It's okay, I'll talk to them first. You take Brother Hong and the others to sit first, I'll come in a while." "Yes, boss. Then we'll go first." Wei Shenjin was absolutely obedient to Lin Yi. After immediately agreeing, he respectfully invited Hong Zhong and the others to go to Shang Yuhua's place. Hong Zhong whispered in Lin Yi's ear, "Brother Lin, these guys are a little strange. Is there a problem?" "Don't worry, Brother Hong, there won't be a problem." Lin Yi smiled faintly, gave him a reassuring look and signaled him to go over there first. Seeing that Lin Yi was really confident, Hong Zhong didn't say much. He really admired Lin Yi's means, so if Lin Yi said there was no problem, then there must be no problem. He didn't need to worry about anything. After Hong Zhong left, Lin Yi smiled at the 4 and said, "Do the 4 of you want to find a quiet place to talk?" He didn't ask why the 4 of them suddenly got together. It didn't matter. In any case, the 4 of them wouldn't have the chance to ask Lin Yi to refine pills for them in the future. The leading guy had a faintly discernible sarcasm in the corner of his mouth. He smiled lightly and said, "There's no need. Anyway, it's not a shameful thing. Master Lin, just tell me if you have finished refining." The news he got from Zheng Tianqing was that Lin Yi had failed the pill concoction. Since that was the case, he had to spread the news as much as possible, and a place with a lot of people like the restaurant was the most suitable place. If he wasn't worried that Lin Yi would leave first when he disembarked the ship, Zheng Tianqing might instruct these 4 guys to refine pills when they arrived at the extreme North Island. At that time, Lin Yi's notoriety would not only be known by these people on the ancient warship, but also by the entire extreme North Island in the shortest time. However, the effect in the restaurant wouldn't be too bad. As the saying goes, good things don't go out, evil things go 1,000 miles. This kind of shameful news spread the fastest, so Zheng Tianqing didn't continue to wait. Without waiting for Lin Yi to speak, another guy said in a lukewarm tone, "Master Lin, we heard a rumor that you will tell us that you have failed to refine pills and then swallow our things. This shouldn't be true, right? Master Lin, these profound level 1 elixirs are extremely precious. Of course, we believe in your ability to refine pills, but if you want to keep it for yourself, it's too disgraceful. 4 kinds of profound level 1 elixirs, you should at least refine 2 or 3 of them, right?" The third guy also said. Before Lin Yi said anything, they had already put the hat of failure on Lin Yi's head. Lin Yi originally wanted to give them the elixir and kill them as soon as possible. They were about to reach the extreme North Island, and he didn't want to waste time with these small fries. But since they didn't even let him speak, then he might as well not say anything. Today he wanted to see how these guys were going to deal with this. The 4th guy was also unwilling to be left out. He snorted and said, "Master Lin, you don't say anything, what do you mean? Is it true that you didn't refine a single elixir? Or is it that you succeeded in refining 1 or something? At least give us a definite answer?" These guys' voices were getting louder and louder, as if they were afraid that others couldn't hear them. Wei Shenjin's face had already changed a little, and he suddenly stood up to teach them a lesson. Shang Wani, Kai Zhongyang, and the others also couldn't stand it anymore, so they also stood up. Most of these people on the ancient battleship knew each other. Whether it was the Central Island or the North Island, even if they hadn't seen each other, they had heard of each other. For example, these 4 guys who spoke were the higher-ups of several small sects and small families in the Central Island. Compared with the vice presidents of big chambers of commerce like Shang Wani and Kai Zhongyang, whether it was power or influence, they were completely not on the same level. As long as they came forward, they believed that these 4 guys would shut up obediently. However, Hong Zhong believed what Lin Yi said just now, so he stopped all of them and let them order the food in peace, lest Lin Yi came over and the food was not served yet. You guys are really too unruly. How can you talk to Master Lin like this? Zheng Dongjue, who had been watching the show from the side, couldn't help but walk over, seemingly to help Lin Yi, but in fact he wanted to step on them a few more times. Master Lin's alchemy ability, who on this ancient battleship doesn't know, is just a few profound level 1 medicinal pills. How can it be difficult for a real alchemy master like Master Lin? Stop joking. Zheng Tianqing also followed over and said with a sinister smile, "Yes, Master Lin's alchemy success rate is very high, your medicinal pills are absolutely no problem, now you guys are like this, what do you mean? Don't you believe in Master Lin?" This guy's teeth that had been knocked out before had completely recovered. At this level, broken hands and feet could quickly recover. With medicinal pills, not to mention a few trivial teeth, they didn't even need medicinal pills, they could just use true qi to heal themselves and they could be put back. However, when Zheng Tianqing saw Lin Yi, those recovered teeth were still faintly painful. Lin Yi looked at Zheng Tianqing and Zheng Dongjue with a faint smile. His eyes looked like he was watching a farce, which made Zheng Tianqing feel that something was wrong. To be continued. Chapter 58-74. It was a pity that he couldn't figure out what was wrong for a while. Now that things had come to this point, the arrow had to be fired. Even if he felt a little strange in his heart, Zheng Tianqing could only continue to implement the plan. Let's not talk about Master Lin's success rate. I believe that he will definitely be able to refine all of your pills, but you all know the limitations of an alchemist. He can't refine pills continuously. And in order for Master Lin to concoct the pills as quickly as possible, if he were to forcefully concoct pills continuously, some mistakes would be unavoidable. Hence, you have to be mentally prepared for the worst, which is not being able to get your pills. Zheng Tianqing's mind was racing, desperately thinking about what was wrong, but his mouth naturally took out all the words that he had prepared. Zheng Dongjue said, "An alchemist can't guarantee success in refining pills. In case of failure, there is no liability for compensation, so you can't ask Master Lin for compensation because he failed continuously, let alone say that Master Lin did this deliberately to embezzle your spirit herbs. This is really ridiculous." The leader of the 4 said loudly. Since there's a taboo that a refiner can't concoct pills continuously, then Lin Yi knows about this taboo, but he's still forcing himself to do it. Isn't that irresponsible? In addition to taking out the spirit herbs for alchemy, we also gave a large amount of alchemy fees. Now don't you have an explanation? That's right. Who knows whether he really failed in alchemy or he didn't refine pills at all? If he didn't do alchemy at all and just said that the alchemy failed, how can we know whether it is true or false? Another person who cooperated tacitly said immediately. Zheng Tianqing waved his hand and said righteously, "You underestimate Master Lin too much. I heard him say before that if the people who ask him to refine pills fail, he will bear all the losses and compensate you all. What else do you have to worry about? Master Lin, am I right?" At this time, the eyes of the entire restaurant were focused here. To be more precise, they were focused on Lin Yi. As long as he said that the alchemy failed, he would immediately lose his reputation. Zheng Tianqing was extremely proud of himself. The uneasy feeling from before had long been thrown to the back of his mind. The formulation and implementation of this plan were all led by him. Although he couldn't beat Lin Yi, being able to use this method to destroy Lin Yi was also enough to make him burst with joy. The ridicule on Lin Yi's face grew more and more intense. He glanced at Zheng Tianqing and sneered, "You're asking me? Is it finally my turn to speak? I almost forgot what I was going to say just now, but you guys are really good at making fun of me. I almost forgot what I wanted to say. What a pity. Was the show over just like that? Are there any more performances?" "What do you mean by that? I'm talking business with you. Don't change the subject." The leader of the 4 people didn't quite understand what Lin Yi meant, but he knew that it was not a good thing, so he said with a cold face, "Young Master Zheng is exonerating you. For his sake, tell us how to compensate." At this time, Zheng Tianqing's heart was inexplicably a little flustered. He expected this kind of emotion to appear on Lin Yi, but looking at Lin Yi's calm face, there was no trace of panic. This matter was really strange. Lin Yi glanced at the guy who spoke faintly and nodded slightly. "You are from the Wu family of Zhongdao, aren't you? Not bad. It's quite vivid to play an old monkey. Hey, why is your face red? Is this a monkey's butt? Your acting skills are really amazing." The guy from the Wu family of Zhongdao suddenly became angry and roared, "Lin Yi, don't talk about it. Do you think you can delay time and get away with it? Let me tell you, it's impossible." Although he was only from a small family, he still felt embarrassed when he was humiliated in public. Anyway, Lin Yi was going to lose his reputation this time, so he had nothing to worry about. However, the next moment he was dumbfounded. A small jade bottle was thrown in front of him by Lin Yi. Because he didn't pay much attention to it, the jade bottle fell to the ground and broke into pieces. A longan-sized elixir rolled out, and a faint fragrance of elixir floated in the air. Mountain Channel Elixir of Profound Level 1. And it's a special quality Mountain Channel Elixir. A nearby diner stood up abruptly and exclaimed with rapid breathing. He didn't even care that the teacup in his hand fell to the ground. If it wasn't for the fact that this was an ancient warship, he would have snatched it. The Mountain Channel Elixir was a high-grade elixir used by giants in the mountain opening period. Its effect was to widen the width and thickness of the meridians, allowing the user to accommodate more true qi. This kind of elixir did not directly increase one's cultivation level and strength. However, in a battle, it could allow an opponent of the same cultivation level to smoothly use more true qi. Therefore, the Mountain Channel Elixir was not inferior to elixirs that could directly increase one's cultivation level and strength. Unfortunately, this kind of elixir could only be taken once in the entire mountain opening period. There would be no effect if it was taken more. Therefore, the value of this special quality Mountain Channel Elixir was even more indescribable. Because it could only be taken once, it was not an exaggeration to say that a special quality Mountain Channel Elixir could be sold for 100 times more than a low-quality Mountain Channel Elixir at an auction. This is the Mountain Channel Elixir that you asked me to refine. Now that the transaction is over, the Wu family of Middle Island will be listed as unwelcome in Tiandan Pavilion. I will no longer accept any elixir refining commission from anyone related to the Wu family of Middle Island. Lin Yi announced this decision expressionlessly. No one would think that he had done anything wrong. If he hadn't refined the elixir, his previous behavior would still be reasonable. However, not only had Lin Yi completed the commission, but it was also a special quality elixir. Therefore, it was reasonable for him to ask for additional fees. It was too lenient to just blacklist the Wu family to express his anger. The face of the guy from the Wu family of Middle Island instantly turned pale. It was as if an invisible hand was strangling his throat. He couldn't even say a word. Even the head of the Wu family would not be able to bear the consequences of offending a high-rank alchemist who could refine a special-grade Mountain Channel pill, let alone a high-ranking member of the Wu family. After all, the Wu family would not be able to bear the consequences. Chapter 5875. Shang Wani also said, "The Universal Chamber of Commerce also agrees with Vice President Hong's proposal. Five Elements Commerce also agrees. Kai Zhongyang, of course, would not be left behind." In just a breath's time, the third largest Chamber of Commerce in Middle Island announced their decision to advance and retreat with Tiandan Pavilion, pushing the Wu family into an endless abyss. The guy from the Wu family of Middle Island was already as pale as a sheet. He wanted to kill himself in front of Lin Yi and beg him to let the Wu family of Middle Island go. "Hong Zhong, what right do you have to make such a decision on behalf of the Hong Chamber of Commerce? What a joke. I'm the one in charge of the Hong Chamber of Commerce here." Wei Jiating suddenly jumped out and shouted angrily. They were both vice presidents, but Wei Jiating came from the headquarters, while Hong Zhong was only the shopkeeper of the North Island branch. It was reasonable for him to say this. Unfortunately, when it came to Lin Yi, Hong Zhong would never back down. Moreover, Wei Jiating's blatant objection was equivalent to completely exposing the truth of the internal strife of the Hong Chamber of Commerce in front of so many people. It was also a huge blow to the reputation of the Hong Chamber of Commerce. Hong Zhong's expression turned cold. Without any nonsense, he directly flashed and appeared in front of Wei Jiating like a ghost. He raised his hand and slapped him. With a crisp slap, Wei Jiating's face was slapped to the side, turning more than 90 degrees. Apart from the clear palm print, his face was also full of shock and disbelief. He never thought that Hong Zhong would hit him directly without saying anything. What was even more terrifying was that he clearly saw Hong Zhong's attack, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't dodge it. Or rather, he couldn't even make a move to dodge. Hong Zhong's slap was not too heavy, but it smashed Wei Jiating's face into pieces. He didn't dare to react. All along he had thought that his strength should be above Hong Zhong's. Only now did he clearly realize that even two Wei Jiating combined might not be Hong Zhong's match. Remember, my surname is Hong, not yours. If you want to discredit the Hong Chamber of Commerce, you can continue to try. Hong Zhong's cold voice rang in Wei Jiating's ears. The murderous intent in his voice made him shudder. However, when he looked up, Hong Zhong had already returned to his seat as if nothing had happened. After this incident, Wei Jiating had no face to continue staying there. He snorted coldly and turned to leave. The matter of the Hong Chamber of Commerce was settled. Lin Yi didn't expect Hong Zhong to suddenly show his thunderous means, but he also understood that although this brother was not a direct descendant of the Hong family, he was still a member of the Hong family. The small conflicts in the North Island were much more serious than the situation just now, but because it happened in his own family, he didn't want to lose his temper at all. This time, however, he had embarrassed the Hong Chamber of Commerce in public. He had already touched Hong Zhong's bottom line. That was why Wei Jiating was in a tragedy. The people in the restaurant didn't pay much attention to Hong Zhong at first, but after this little episode, there were obviously more people paying attention to Hong Zhong. However, Lin Yi didn't care about these things. He continued to take out 3 jade bottles and threw them to the other 3. These are your elixirs. Check them yourself. After the 3 subconsciously caught the jade bottles, Lin Yi continued, the transaction is over. Like the Wu family, the 3 of you are also listed as unwelcome customers of Tiandan Pavilion. Anyone related to you is on my list of refusing alchemy. Hong Zhong and the others also expressed the same position. These 3 guys were also completely dumbfounded. Originally they only agreed to help Zheng Dongxing for some small benefits. They didn't expect to offend Lin Yi, a high-level alchemist, and cause such big trouble for their respective families. It was a sin that could not be redeemed even if they died 100 times. Pill Hall will also refuse any cooperation with these 4 families. Li Zhaoyi suddenly came in outside the door, and as soon as he spoke, he represented the Pill Hall to support Lin Yi, which made him a little puzzled. This matter was originally caused by Zheng Dongjue and the others. Li Zhaoyi openly supported him. Wasn't it obvious that he was going against the Zheng family? Lin Yi glanced at the people of the Zheng family curiously, but found that apart from their pale faces, they actually had no intention of refuting. When the 4 guys heard Li Zhaoyi's decision, they fell to the ground weakly and looked at Zheng Dongjue and Zheng Tianqing miserably. Unfortunately, these 2 guys had hearts of stone. They would never speak for them at this time. Li Zhaoyi glanced at Zheng Dongjue lightly and said, Deputy Hall Master Zheng, is there any problem with my decision? These 4 people humiliated us alchemists, which is equivalent to humiliating the entire Pill Hall. I think this kind of people is really not qualified to cooperate with the Pill Hall, right? Yes, Master Li Zhaoyi is right. Zheng Dongjue gritted his teeth and nodded, and barely squeezed out an ugly smile. Lin Yi nodded gently at Li Zhaoyi, thanking her for speaking up for justice, but that was all. Anyway, it was the same without her. Li Zhaoyi hesitated for a moment, but still nodded slightly in response. Unfortunately, when she nodded, Lin Yi had already turned and walked towards Wei Xinjin and the others. Was this a waste of expression? Looking at the elixirs in the hands of the 4 people on the ground, although 3 of the bottles were only slightly opened, Li Zhaoyi could be sure that they were all special quality elixirs, which made her more and more curious about Lin Yi. To be able to refine yin and yang pill alone, and be able to continuously refine special quality elixirs in a short period of time, could this Lin Yi really be the disciple of the pill god? But why had she never heard of it before? Taking a deep look at Lin Yi's back, Li Zhaoyi did not stay, but turned and walked out of the restaurant, as if she had lost interest in eating. Zheng Dongjue glared at Zheng Tianqing fiercely. He thought it was a perfect plan, but it turned out to be an idiot who thought he was infallible. Now it was not an exaggeration to say that he had suffered a double loss. If it wasn't for Zheng Tianqing's final vow that Lin Yi would definitely fail in alchemy, the 4 guys would not have been so persistent. They did not even give Lin Yi a chance to speak, which led to them being killed by the special quality elixirs in the end. Now that the 4 had suffered such a big loss, if Zheng Dongjue did not take out something to compensate them, they might reveal the whole thing. Linny nodded, then asked, if we don't have it, won't be to the Yangji grass? How about I go with you guys? With more people we might be able to put in a few good words. That way the other party won't make things too difficult for you guys. Kai Zhongyang bitterly smiled and shook his head. That's not necessary. It's not that easy to have more people there. Brother Lin, you should take them to the inn first. I don't think we'll need too much time to go back. Linny nodded and didn't ask any more questions. If Kai Zhongyang could tell him, he definitely wouldn't hide anything. Since he didn't want to explain in detail, it meant that this matter wasn't suitable for too many people to know. Of course, Linny wouldn't force Kai Zhongyang. If that's the case, then Brother Kai and Brother Shang, you two be careful. If you need help, come find me at any time. Linny wasn't worried that the two of them would be in danger. The security of the far north island was very good. Whoever dared to make a move here must be tired of living. However, if the customer who reserved the Yangji grass wanted to make things difficult for Kai Zhongyang, it wouldn't be easy to deal with. After all, he was in the wrong first, so it wouldn't be good for Lin Yi to intervene. After the two agreed, they cupped their fists together and quickly left the ancient warship. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared into the distance. Seeing that most of the people on the ancient warship had left, Lin Yi bid farewell to Okuda Ba and said, Brother Okuda, I'll also leave the warship first. If there's anything, you know where to find me. Alright, I'll send you the entry quota for the trade fair as soon as possible. Be careful. If you're not used to living down there, you can just come back here. You're our honorary vice captain. Okuda Ba said with a laugh. At the same time, he reached out and patted Lin Yi's shoulder. Of course. Lin Yi replied with a smile. After chatting for a while, he disembarked the warship with Wei Xinjin and Shang Yuhua. As for Hong Zhong, Ho Guanqi and the others, they had already left. They all had their own factions. Since they had just arrived at the far north island, they needed to settle down first. After a while, Lin Yi and the other two followed the people from Five Elements Commerce and stayed in a relatively high-class inn. Kai Zhongyang directly booked a courtyard that was big enough for all of them to stay in. The courtyard could also be used to store some less important and relatively crude goods. During the auction, the rent of the inns in the far north island was very expensive. Moreover, it was very difficult to stay in the inn on the spot. Most of the inns had to be booked. For example, the courtyard that Kai Zhongyang booked had a daily rent of 50,000 spirit jades. There were still a few days before the auction started. When the auction ended, just the rent alone would have to be paid hundreds of thousands of spirit jades. If one wasn't rich and powerful, it would be difficult to even find a place to stay. Not long after Lin Yi and the others chose their own rooms, Kai Zhongyang and Shang Wani came back. Looking at their expressions, it seemed that they weren't able to solve the problem. Brother Kai, how was it? Lin Yi came out and asked. If he wanted to help, he needed to know the situation first. Kai Zhongyang shook his head and said, This time, I didn't even see the person. He said that he wasn't at home. Let's wait until tomorrow. Let's settle down first. It turned out that they didn't even see the person. No wonder. Lin Yi also wanted to help, but he couldn't. He could only casually comfort Kai Zhongyang and let it go. Shang Wani and Kai Zhongyang made an appointment to go together again tomorrow. Then, they went back to the place where the Universal Chamber of Commerce lived with Shang Yuhua. They had just arrived here, so there were still a lot of things to do. After Lin Yi chose a room, he went out with Wei Xinjin. He couldn't interfere with the matters of Five Elements Commerce. Anyway, there was nothing to settle down. So, he simply went to the business street of the far north island to take a look. Chapter 5877. Although Wei Xinjin was a genius disciple of the Middle Island Snow Sword School, he didn't have the opportunity to come to the extreme North Island. This time it could be considered as an eye-opener. Boss, this extreme North Island is really a good place. Although the area is a bit small, it's not an exaggeration to say that it's a small place, but the spirit chi is a lot denser than the Middle Island. Wei Xinjin walked beside Lin Yi and exclaimed in admiration. Unfortunately, Shang Yuhua went back with her father. Otherwise, it would be very good to stroll around together. Lin Yi slightly smiled and said, It's because the area is small that it can maintain its current transcendent position. If the area was as big as the North Island, it would have already been divided by some sections. Wei Xinjin nodded and said, That's true. If the island was a bit bigger, perhaps it wouldn't have such a position now. Speaking of which, the extreme North Island seems to be controlled by a family, right? Although this family's reputation is not prominent, it should be an extremely powerful family. Otherwise, the extreme North Island would have already changed owners. I heard that the extreme North Island's ruler is the Lee family. Last time I came here, I didn't see anyone from their family. The one who came was Lee family's steward Song. This time the level of the auction is a lot higher. Perhaps there will be someone from the Lee family to host it. Linny casually guessed. In fact, he didn't care whether or not there would be someone from the Lee family to host it. While talking, the two of them had already arrived at the only Chamber of Commerce in the extreme North Island. The name was also very simple. It was called the Extreme North Chamber of Commerce. Two young and beautiful girls stood at the door. When they saw the guests, they respectfully bowed and greeted them with a sweet voice. "Welcome to the Extreme North Chamber of Commerce. How can I help you?" One of the girls asked with a smile. The last time Linny came to the extreme North Island, he didn't have a chance to stroll around. Most of the time was used for alchemy. Therefore, this was also the first time he came to the extreme North Chamber of Commerce. With such two beautiful girls welcoming the guests, at least his impression was not bad. Wei Shinjin suddenly felt a little uneasy in front of the two young and beautiful girls. Although he had a failed marriage and was developing well with Shang Yuhua, he still felt a little flustered when he saw beautiful girls. Linny smiled faintly and said, "We're just looking around. Okay, if there is anything you need, please call us at any time. We will definitely come as soon as possible." The girl still maintained her sweet smile as she bowed and invited Lin Yi and the girl into the extreme North Chamber of Commerce. As soon as he entered the door, the first thing he saw was not the display of the goods, but a distribution map. It was very similar to the shopping malls in the secular world. It could be seen that the people of the extreme North Chamber of Commerce were really business-minded. Linny glanced at it slightly. There were a total of 5 floors where the goods were sold. The first floor sold weapons and armor props. The second floor sold spirit grass and spirit fruit. The third floor sold casting materials. The fourth floor sold medicinal pills. The fifth floor sold books and secret manuals of martial arts, array Dao, alchemy Dao, tools Dao and so on. Judging from the number of people on the first floor, the business here was still very good. For things like weapons and armor, Linny didn't have much interest. The auction was coming. The really good weapons and armor props would be taken to the auction. It was impossible to sell them here. Therefore he took Wei Shinjin directly to the second floor. This extreme North Chamber of Commerce had restrictions on divine sense. Therefore it was impossible for Lin Yi to use divine sense to sweep the entire building. Unless he used divine sense attack skills to tear these restrictions. However, that would be tantamount to completely falling out with the extreme North Chamber of Commerce. There was no enmity between them. Linny wouldn't do such a brainless thing. Linny was still somewhat interested in the spirit grass and spirit fruit on the second floor. He looked at it slightly, but there was nothing that he was in urgent need of. "Boss, this extreme North Chamber of Commerce is really worthy of its reputation. Look, there is even a piece of Thunder Shen Rattan." Wei Shinjin lowered his voice and said with great excitement. Thunder Shen Rattan was simply priceless in other places. He didn't expect that the extreme North Chamber of Commerce would just casually display it outside for sale. Lin Yi had a lot of them and they were no longer of much use to him, so he subconsciously ignored them. But Wei Shinjin was different. He hadn't reached the profound ascension stage. It would be strange if he wasn't excited when he saw the Thunder Shen Rattan. Lin Yi faintly smiled and said, "You want to buy the Thunder Shen Rattan? The quality of that piece is not good. When you are about to advance to the profound ascension stage, I will give you a Thunder Shen pill. So don't worry about that piece of Thunder Shen Rattan." Wei Shinjin was suddenly overjoyed. Thinking about it, the boss was a profound level 1 or even profound level 2 alchemy master. Refining the Thunder Shen pill was easy. He also vaguely knew that Lin Yi boss had a Thunder Shen pill. Since the boss said so, there must be no problem. At this time, a young man came up from the first floor. After hearing Lin Yi's words, he suddenly sneered, "This extreme North Island really has a lot of nouveau riche bumpkins. They actually said that the Thunder Shen Rattan is not good and directly gave a Thunder Shen pill." Lin Yi faintly glanced at the young man. He didn't want to pay attention to him. It doesn't matter what other people think or say as long as they don't affect Lin Yi. Wei Shinjin was grateful to Lin Yi in his heart. When he heard this, he glared and said, "It's not your fault that you are ignorant. No one will blame you even if you come out and make a fool of yourself. It's just that you casually fart like this. Don't you think it's too much to poison innocent people? You want to die." The young man's face froze. At the same time, his eyes flashed a sharp killing intent. And a middle-aged man who followed behind him quickly pulled his arm and whispered, "Young master, we are also newcomers. There is no need to make enemies with people. Let's go back and investigate their background first. Lin casually glanced at the two people. He heard the middle-aged man's whisper clearly. However, he was too lazy to care. If they really wanted to come and court death, then he would help them. Wei Shinjin, let's go up. Don't waste time with these boring people here. Lin said faintly and walked to the third floor. After Wei Shinjin snorted, he didn't continue to say anything. He turned around and followed Lin. The young man looked at them coldly as they went upstairs, then said to the middle-aged man with dissatisfaction, Uncle Li, you are too cautious. You have to investigate everyone's background first before you meet them. Do you think we are afraid of anyone? Chapter 58-78. The young man snorted twice and muttered in a low voice, You only know how to use my father to suppress me. I don't care. Those two brats just now were too arrogant. Uncle Li, quickly find someone to inquire about their background. As long as they are not people you can't provoke, just kill them directly. Uncle Li agreed and was about to say something when three people came up the stairs. The young man looked at them casually and paused. Zheng Tianqing, why are you here? The three who came later were Zheng Dongxing, Zheng Dongjue, and Zheng Tianqing. Hearing his name, he raised his head happily. Isn't this Master Qian? What a coincidence to actually meet you on the extreme North Island. Zheng Tianqing quickly walked 2 steps ahead of his grandpa and second grandpa, standing in front of the young man and cupped his fists respectfully. Master Qian, Mr. Li, it's been a while. How have you been? Not bad. I heard you went to Zhongdao, right? How is it? Is it okay? The young man, young Master Qian, waved his hand carelessly and asked casually. Zheng Dongxing and Zheng Dongjue came over and asked Zheng Tianqing with a smile. Tianqing, these two are? Master Qian, Mr. Li, let me introduce you. Zheng Tianqing pointed at Zheng Dongxing with a face full of smiles. This is my grandpa Zheng Dongxing. This is my second grandpa Zheng Dongjue, the vice head of Zhongdao's Elixir Hall. Master Qian didn't have much of a reaction, but Uncle Li's face turned serious as he cupped his fists. Zhongdao's Elixir Hall, the one Zhang Liju created? Zheng Dongjue was a bit annoyed. He wanted to take the position of the head of the Elixir Hall, but Zhang Liju was like a mountain on top of his head. Whenever someone mentioned Elixir Hall, the first person they thought of was Zhang Liju. As for Zheng Dongjue, who was that? Never heard of it. Uncle Li's reaction was a perfect example of Liju's influence. Zheng Dongxing was a famous elixir refiner in Dongzhou, but he didn't care at all. If it weren't for the Elixir Hall, he'd probably just give them a nod of greeting and be done with it. Zheng Tianqing didn't care about his second grandpa's thoughts at all. He smiled and nodded. Yes, Mr. Li has heard of it? My second grandpa is the vice head of the elixir god Zhang Liju's Elixir Hall, and he's one of the top people in Zhongdao. At this point, Zheng Tianqing turned to his two grandfathers and said, This is young Master Qian Xiaodong, a genius disciple of Xixing Academy in the East Continent. He is also the young master of Rapid City. Mr. Li is the guest elder of Rapid City. He was entrusted by the master to take care of young Master Qian. Zheng Dongxing was originally a little dissatisfied. These two people didn't react at all when they heard his name. Now he knew that they seemed to have such a great background. He immediately smiled and lowered his posture. So it's young Master Qian and Mr. Li. It's an honor to meet you. West Star Academy had a great reputation in the East Continent, and was even stronger than the yellow-ranked Morning Star Cultivator Academy that Zheng Dongxing was originally from. However, its geographical location was rather remote, and it was in a completely different direction from the Morning Star Academy, so there wasn't much interaction. Rapid City was right next to Xixing Academy, and this city was also one of the stronger cities in the East Continent. Zheng Dongxing of course had heard of it before. Naturally, he wanted to curry favor with Qian Xiaodong. If he could get on good terms with these two, he might be able to return to the East Continent. Qian Xiaodong nodded to Zheng Dongxing casually and said, It's an honor to meet you. He then said to Zheng Tianqing, When are you going back to the East Continent, kid? Without you we brothers don't have much fun. What do you think? Do you want to go back with me after the auction? Zheng Tianqing was flattered and bowed. Young Master Qian, you really think too highly of me. But after the auction, I still have some things to take care of in Zhongdao, so I won't be able to go back with you. But don't worry, young Master Qian, I'll get back to the East Continent as soon as possible. Zheng Dongxing secretly gritted his teeth. This was such a good opportunity. Little bastard, you don't know how to think about your grandfather. If you don't want to go back, at least let me go back with young Master Qian first. In fact, Zheng Tianqing really didn't dare to go back with Qian Xiaodong. Although he and Qian Xiaodong often played together in the East Continent, but because of the difference in status, Zheng Tianqing was just a follower of Qian Xiaodong. He would be teased by them for no reason, and even when he suffered a loss, he still had to smile apologetically. Zheng Dongxing originally had the identity of a second-seat alchemist in Morning Star Academy. But later on he courted death and was kicked out of the East Continent. Zheng Tianqing's life became even more difficult, so he did not hesitate to come to Zhongdao from the East Continent. Otherwise, who would be willing to leave the East Continent? You really have a lot of things to do. Qian Xiaodong smacked his lips discontentedly, then waved his hand and said, forget it, let's not talk about this first. Just now 2 boys offended me. Uncle Li used my father to pressure me and told me not to cause trouble. Can you help me see if I know those 2 boys? Do they have any scary background? Uncle Li smiled bitterly and shook his head. Qian Xiaodong was talented, otherwise he would not have become a genius disciple of Xixing Academy. Unfortunately he was spoiled by his father since he was a child, so his character was more arrogant and overbearing. The matter just now was not worth mentioning at all. The cause was that Qian Xiaodong provoked them, and a few words of conflict was not a big deal. However, he was not willing to give up until he killed those 2 young men. Uncle Li could not persuade him on this matter, so he could only do as Qian Xiaodong said. It just so happened that Zheng Tianqing and the other 2 were here, maybe he could use them to do things and it would save a lot of trouble. Uncle Li had already made up his mind, so he did not speak. Zheng Tianqing said with a face full of righteous indignation, who is so bold to even dare to offend young Master Qian? Let's go and see who it is. Young Master Qian, where did those 2 ignorant things go? Qian Xiaodong was very satisfied with Zheng Tianqing's performance, and pointed to the 3rd floor and said, they just went up, let's go now, they are probably on the 3rd floor. Zheng Tianqing said to his 2 grandfathers and walked up with Qian Xiaodong. Now that the extreme North Island was full of big figures, he did not dare to be so arrogant usually, but now that Qian Xiaodong was with him, Zheng Tianqing was much more confident. Chapter 58-79. Uncle Li wanted to borrow House Zheng's knife to kill, but he didn't expect that Zheng Tianqing was also planning to use Qian Xiaodong and Uncle Li as his backing. The group went up to the 3rd floor and Qian Xiaodong saw Lin Yi and Wei Xinjin right away. He pulled Zheng Tianqing and said, see that, it's those 2 brats. You don't know how arrogant those 2 were, if it wasn't for Uncle Li I would have killed them already. Zheng Tianqing saw Lin Yi and Wei Xinjin, and he was overjoyed. He was just thinking about how to deal with Lin Yi, and he didn't expect that this guy would offend Qian Xiaodong. He knew that this Uncle Li beside Qian Xiaodong was a true mountain opening practitioner. Even if a black ascending practitioner couldn't kill you, wouldn't a mountain opening practitioner be able to? Zheng Tianqing's mind spun, and he had already thought of a plan to borrow a knife to kill. He pretended to be disdainful and said, Master Qian, so this is the guy you're talking about. I know him, he's called Lin Yi, a guy who likes to show off everywhere. With his connections he opened a small elixir shop in Middle Island. I heard that he asked a friend from 5 Elements Commerce to get the qualification to come here, and the one beside him is his follower, an inner disciple of the Snow Sword School. That week? Qian Xiaodong asked in amazement. Then he looked at Uncle Li and said, Uncle Li, are you relieved now? This kind of small fry, we should just kill him. What merchant house, what snow sword sect? They were nothing in Qian Xiaodong's eyes. His dad told him not to mess with them, and other than the super noble houses, there was only Zhang Liju from the Pill Hall, Shangguan Tianhua from the North Island, and a few others. Lin Yi, on the other hand, was just a lucky freelancer with some connections. If he knew that Zheng Tianqing purposely hid most of the information about Lin Yi, he might even thank him. He wanted to deal with Lin Yi anyway, so he didn't care who he was. Uncle Li didn't answer directly but raised his eyebrows and asked, How much do you know about this Lin Yi? What's his strength now? Who is his master? Zheng Tianqing curled his lips inwardly. This Uncle Li was quite troublesome. You're a big shot in the opening phase, and since Lin Yi offended your young master, why don't you just go up and slap him to death? What's the point of talking so much? But since he had asked, Zheng Tianqing didn't dare to not answer. He could only bow respectfully and say, Mr. Li, I know Lin Yi very well. He is probably at the peak of the late stage of mystic ascension, and as for his master, he is a disciple of the Qingyun Pavilion in the North Island. What he is learning are the common arts and techniques of the Qingyun Pavilion. Blue Cloud Pavilion? Uncle Li repeated and felt a lot more relieved. If it was a disciple of the Soaring Sky Pavilion, then he would persuade Qian Xiaodong to give up, because the Soaring Sky Pavilion had Shanghai Tianhua. As for the Blue Cloud Pavilion, although it was also from the North Island, it was not the Soaring Sky Pavilion after all, so it shouldn't be a problem. It was a pity that he didn't know that Lin Yi was someone that Shanghai Tianhua valued. Otherwise he would never think that it would be easy to deal with Lin Yi. As for the strength of the peak of the Profound Ascension late stage with Lin Yi's age, he could indeed be considered a genius, but in front of the mountain opening stage, even the Great Perfection Profound Ascension stage would not have any chance. Qian Xiaodong was a little impatient. He turned to Zheng Tianqing and said in a low voice, "Zheng Tianqing, go and kill those two brats for me. I'll definitely remember your benefits later." If he could do it himself, Qian Xiaodong would definitely do it himself. That would be more satisfying, but Uncle Li was still hesitant. It was estimated that he wouldn't be able to wait for any results, so he simply encouraged Zheng Tianqing to do it. Zheng Tianqing immediately said with a sad face, "Young Master Qian, how can I be that guy's opponent? He is an expert at the peak of the Profound Ascension late stage. With my level I will be killed in seconds. He probably won't even blink an eye." After saying that, he deliberately glanced at Uncle Li, meaning that the only one here who could deal with Lin Yi was probably his Uncle Li. Lin Yi had long discovered that the three people of the Zheng family and the two fools were together. They were indeed jackals of the same tribe, and their IQs were very low. They wanted to deal with him, but they actually stood here and pointed at him, afraid that he couldn't hear them and didn't know that they wanted to deal with him. Originally, Lin Yi wanted to see if there was any ghost cicada wings. Unfortunately, the extreme North Chamber of Commerce had a lot of things, and there was no lack of good materials, but none of them were what Lin Yi needed. He was in a bad mood and these guys came to look for trouble. Lin Yi simply walked over and said, "What are you going to do? Just say it, don't be like a follower, don't you find it troublesome?" Uncle Li looked at Lin Yi carefully, but he couldn't see through Lin Yi's depth, which made him more cautious. There was no reason for a cultivator at the peak of the Profound Ascension late stage to be able to hide from his eyes and make him unable to see the opponent's strength. Qian Xiaodong was used to being arrogant, so he didn't have any scruples and directly scolded, "Who are you? How dare you talk to this young master like this? If you want to die, just say it, this young master will definitely fulfill your wish." Lin Yi didn't pay attention to this self-righteous fool. The strength of a mere peak of the nascent soul stage might be considered good among the younger generation, but in front of him, he didn't even have the qualification to fight. "Surname Zheng, you'd better be honest, my patience is limited, this is the last warning." Lin Yi completely ignored Qian Xiaodong and said to the three people of the Zheng family. The faces of the three people of the Zheng family were a little ugly. They wanted to say a few harsh words, but suddenly found that they really didn't have the courage to say anything more. As an alchemist, their status was indeed relatively noble, but Lin Yi's alchemy level was much more powerful than the three of them combined, and in terms of strength, Lin Yi could also beat the three of them, so what else was there to say? A wise man doesn't fight when the odds are against him. Endure for a moment, take a step back and the world will be bright. The three people of the Zheng family said these words in their hearts to comfort themselves, and then thought that they should hurry up and carry out the plan, cutting off all the wings of Lin Yi first. Qian Xiaodong was almost mad with anger. He was the dignified young master of Rapid City, few people in the East Continent dared to ignore his words, but this small disciple of the Blue Cloud Pavilion of the North Island was simply too much. Chapter 5880. Uncle Li's expression changed slightly. Before the situation was clear, he didn't want to easily become enemies with Lin Yi. But now it was no longer up to him. With Qian Xiaodong's personality, since he made a move, he would never stop. Even Uncle Li wouldn't be able to stop him. Lin Yi sneered. He could easily crush this nascent soul realm idiot to death, and he could use more than 100 different methods without repeating them. But in the end he didn't choose any of them and let Qian Xiaodong's dagger stab into his body. Of course, Qian Xiaodong's dagger couldn't hurt Jing Dongxing at all. He only did this because his consciousness had scanned Jing Dongxing's jade box, and there was a Yin core fruit in it. He wanted to get close to Zheng Dongxing, and that was why Qian Xiaodong was so proud. As soon as the dagger touched Lin Yi's clothes, he flew out as if he was hit by a giant hammer. That angle and direction was exactly where Zheng Dongxing was. No matter how you looked at it, you couldn't see any traces of it being intentional. It was simply perfect coordination. When Lin Yi flew close to Zheng Dongxing, the old man was afraid of being affected by him. He tried to dodge in a hurry. His mind was a bit scattered, and the opportunity appeared just like that. In terms of this kind of method, Lin Yi was even better than Yu Xiaoke. He had received the teachings of Uncle Dong Jun. The moment he passed by, the core fruit in the jade box on Jing Dongxing's body was taken away by Lin Yi and put into his storage bag. To Lin Yi, the value of the core fruit really wasn't worth mentioning, but going through so much trouble to get this core fruit definitely wasn't the result of a sudden impulse. It was an action that had been carefully thought out. Since Shang Wanni's qi deviation was most likely caused by the Zheng family, then the core fruit that Jing Dongxing solemnly kept close to his body was a bit suspicious. There were many more precious spirit herbs and spirit fruits than this. Why did he not bring anything else but the core fruit? So, Lin Yi thought that the safest thing to do was to have the core fruit in his hands. If Zheng Dongxing knew that it was because he valued the core fruit too much that Lin Yi wanted to take it away, would he vomit blood? This core fruit was indeed very important. When Tong Wulsui schemed against Kai Zhongyang, of course, he had to leave a way out for himself. He couldn't frame someone else and end up getting himself into trouble. The person who ordered the Yang extreme grass from the extreme North Island also ordered the core fruit. In other words, Kai Zhongyang being able to obtain the Yang extreme grass was actually the result of Tong Wulsui's secret manipulation. This was because there was only one Yang extreme grass, but there were two core fruits. Taking out a core fruit, after consuming the Yang pole grass in Kai Zhongyang's hands, he could still take out a core fruit to complete the order. This was the most important thing. Otherwise, no one would have anything. At most, it would be a lose-lose situation. There was no point in doing something that harmed others without benefiting oneself. Lin Yi didn't know about the twists and turns. He just instinctively thought that it was strange for Zheng Dongxing to carry the core fruit on him, so he took it away. Anyway, it was something from the Zheng family, it would be a waste not to take it. Qian Xiaodong saw that his attack was effective and was immediately overjoyed. He didn't even notice that Lin Yi flew out on his own. He really thought that he was the one who showed his power and killed Lin Yi, the peak late-stage profound ascension cultivator. It seemed that the peak late-stage profound ascension was not a big deal. Qian Xiaodong thought as he rushed behind Lin Yi. He was now full of confidence. Of course, he wanted to take the opportunity to kill Lin Yi. Lin Yi didn't feel like playing games with this guy anymore after getting the fruit. He stomped his feet and turned around to slap the guy's face. He didn't want to kill him for now since he'd put on a good show with Lin Yi. He'd just teach him a lesson. "Uncle Li, save me." Qian Xiaodong was shocked and immediately screamed. He wasn't a person who didn't know what to do. To be able to become a genius disciple of Xixing Academy, he naturally saw that Lin Yi's casual slap was not something he could withstand. Although this slap wouldn't kill him, it was still very likely that half of his face would be slapped off. Even if he could recover with medicinal pills, Qian Xiaodong didn't want to suffer such an ugly injury. Uncle Li sighed in his heart. He had never relaxed his vigilance against Lin Yi, so he immediately appeared in front of Qian Xiaodong. Even before Qian Xiaodong opened his mouth, he had already blocked Lin Yi's slap. After a slight vibration, the overflowing Jin Qi was completely restrained by Uncle Li. It did not affect any of the display cabinets on the third floor. The surrounding guests were also not affected. Lin Yi stood with his hands behind his back and looked at Uncle Li calmly. It was just an early-stage mountain opening expert. If he wanted to kill him, it wouldn't take too much effort. If this was not the extreme North Chamber of Commerce but the wilderness, this Uncle Li and Qian Xiaodong would have already been killed by him. Uncle Li looked at Lin Yi with a serious expression. Just now Lin Yi couldn't show his true strength at all. But seeing the other party's calm appearance, Uncle Li knew that he wouldn't be able to get anything good today. On the surface, the aura that Lin Yi displayed was indeed the strength of the peak late-stage mysterious ascension realm. However, Uncle Li's intuition told him that Lin Yi was not afraid of him, an early-stage mountain-opening magnate realm cultivator. This kind of person was too scary. He was so young and had such strength. If he couldn't kill him in one go, then it was best not to offend him. Otherwise, with the potential that Lin Yi had shown, there might be a strong enemy that Rapid City couldn't face in the future. Little friend Lin, this matter is just a misunderstanding. How about we forget about it and not mention it? Uncle Li smiled and said sincerely. If they could reconcile, then it would naturally be for the best. Qian Xiaodong was still hoping that Uncle Li could teach Lin Yi a lesson. How could he be willing to make peace? He immediately said angrily, "Uncle Li, what are you talking about? Hurry up and kill this bastard. He actually dared to attack me. The people of Rapid City have never suffered such a loss before." Lin Yi glanced at Qian Xiaodong disdainfully and said with a faint smile, "Misunderstanding? Why doesn't it look like it?" Uncle Li's heart skipped a beat. He knew that Lin Yi didn't want to reconcile. If Qian Xiaodong didn't say anything, then perhaps Lin Yi would agree to his proposal. Unfortunately, his words had no effect other than making an enemy for Rapid City. Everyone, it is forbidden to fight in our extreme north chamber of commerce. If there is a next time, then don't blame us for not warning you. A short and fat middle-aged man appeared on the third floor with a smile and said gently. Chapter 5881. Of course this was just their illusion. After all, the extreme north chamber of commerce was open to do business. As long as it was not too excessive, they would not easily kill people. At most, they would be expelled from the extreme north island and permanently blacklisted. Uncle Lee felt that it was a pity. If only this person had come earlier to stop the conflict. If he had come now, he might as well have come later. However, based on the principle of a strong dragon not oppressing a local snake, Uncle Lee was still very polite and apologized to the fat man. Then he took the unwilling Chen Xiaodong and directly left the extreme north chamber of commerce. At this point, Uncle Lee was already weighing the pros and cons of killing Lin Yi right here and now. A person like this, if he were to let him grow, wouldn't today's grudge turn into the annihilation of Rapid City in the future? Uncle Lee, who was used to this kind of thing, did not dare to bet that Lin Yi would be open-minded and give up the revenge of Chen Xiaodong. Zheng Dongxing and the other two did not dare to stay with Lin Yi after Chen Xiaodong left. In the case that their strength could not be suppressed, it was better to stay as far away from Lin Yi as possible. Seeing that the conflict was over, the short and fat man also quickly disappeared. Lin Yi shook his head and did not think much about this matter. He continued to walk up with Wei Xinjin. The fourth floor was the place where medicinal pills were sold. Lin Yi himself was able to refine Mystic Level 1 or even Mystic Level 2 alchemist. The medicinal pills here were not worth his attention at all. So he took Wei Xinjin directly to the fifth floor and did not intend to stay here at all. There were very few customers on the fifth floor. It seemed that there were not many people who bought secret books. This made Lin Yi very satisfied. It was more suitable for him to choose what he needed with fewer people. Wei Xinjin, go and see if there are any mental cultivation methods and martial skills that you need. If you like it, tell me and I will give it to you. Lin Yi said straightforwardly. At present he had more than 100 million spirit jades on him. Perhaps this was not enough to buy the spirit gathering branch and soul wood, but it should be more than enough to buy some mental cultivation methods and martial skills. Thank you, boss. Wei Xinjin happily agreed. He would not be courteous with Lin Yi. He knew that his boss was a straightforward person, so there was no need to be courteous. After Wei Xinjin ran off to find what he needed, Lin Yi walked to the other side alone. Wei Xinjin went to the mental cultivation and martial skills area, while Lin Yi went to the alchemy and array Dao area. With the Heaven's Stolen Fortune battle art in hand, Lin Yi didn't feel that he needed any better mental cultivation methods, and he reckoned that there wouldn't be any better mental cultivation methods here. As for martial skills, he could learn them from his opponents at any time, so there wasn't much need to buy some. A salesgirl came forward and bowed with a smile. Senior, may I ask if you need any books in this field? I can recommend you some. On Wei Xinjin's side, there was also a salesgirl introducing to him. There were many books here, so there was someone in charge of recommending them. This way the success rate of business would be much higher. Lin Yi didn't dislike this. Although his divine sense could quickly scan through the names of the books, it was more efficient to let this beauty introduce them to him instead of just knowing the names. I want to find a book that introduces all kinds of spiritual herbs and fruits. It would be best if there are pictures and detailed descriptions of their properties. Do you have it here? Lin Yi nodded at the salesgirl and asked casually. He had wanted a book like this for a long time. Zhang Liju's Elixir Refining Notes also had introductions to these spiritual herbs and fruits, but it was only mentioned in passing. Lin Yi wanted to improve further on the path of elixir refining, so he couldn't stop absorbing this knowledge. The salesgirl smiled sweetly. Yes, we, the Extreme North Commerce, have collected many books in this field. I'm sure they can satisfy your needs, senior. I wonder if you have any requirements for the book's details? Naturally, the more detailed the better. Lin Yi said without hesitation. If he bought the simple version, he might miss out on some precious spiritual herbs and fruits. He wouldn't be able to recognize them in the future, and that would be a huge loss. Since he was going to buy it, of course he would buy the best. The salesgirl was secretly surprised. The smile on her face became even sweeter. The best book on spiritual herbs and fruits wasn't cheap. If she could sell it, she would earn a lot of money today. Senior, please come this way. According to your request, I recommend this Herbal Essentials, detailed explanation to you. This ancient book has collected more than 99% of the spirit herbs on the Heaven Stage Island. Occasionally there are some that have been missed, but they are too obscure and have never been heard of before. Among the similar books sold on the market, this is the most detailed one. The salesgirl enthusiastically introduced it to Lin Yi. She didn't say any exaggerated words, but truthfully said that this book was the best one that could be bought in the market, and there were some that were missing. Lin Yi glanced at the book in the crystal cabinet. The price marked below was 20,000 spirit jades. This wasn't something that anyone could casually take out. When he first came to Sky Class Island, Lin Yi couldn't even afford 1 or 2 pages of this book even if he sold himself. Can I take a look? Although 20,000 spirit jades was just a drop in the bucket for Lin Yi, if he bought a trash book, it would be completely meaningless. The salesgirl nodded respectfully and said, "Of course, please wait a moment." After that, the salesgirl made a few hand gestures and unlocked the restriction on the transparent crystal cabinet. She carefully took out the book and handed it over to Lin Yi. "Senior, the books sold by our Extreme North Chamber of Commerce have restrictions on them before they are sold. Only the first 10 pages can be tested." After Lin Yi took the book, the salesgirl deliberately reminded him so that Lin Yi wouldn't be unhappy if he couldn't read it. Lin Yi smiled slightly and said, "I understand." After opening it, the first page was a description of spiritual herbs. The general idea was that plants that contain the spiritual energy of the world, whether it was spiritual herbs or spiritual fruits, were collectively called spiritual herbs. Moreover, because of the different regions, the same species might have different growth conditions and so on. Lin Yi already knew about these things. There was nothing new, so after a quick glance he flipped it over. After that, it recorded the medicinal properties and effects of various spiritual herbs and spiritual fruits. Each spiritual herb would be accompanied by a small and exquisite illustration, giving people a very intuitive impression. Chapter 5882. Moreover, in addition to these analyses, there were also some rumors or speculations about the origin of the elixir, so that people could follow the map and find a direction. Good. This book is really good, I want it. Lin Yi nodded satisfactorily. Not to mention the detailed analysis of the medicinal properties in the book, just the hint of the source of the elixir was worth more than 20,000 spirit jades. So, he didn't even have the intention to bargain and directly bought the herbal essences in detail. The girl who received Lin Yi was suddenly overjoyed. A business worth 20,000 spirit jades was done. She could at least get a commission of hundreds of spirit jades, which was enough to make up for several months of no business income. Lin Yi was really a generous customer. The girl also secretly rejoiced in her heart. She didn't recommend those ancient books for thousands of spirit jades or only a few hundred spirit jades for Lin Yi. Although those were also valuable, compared with this book they were child's play. Of course, the cheapest one could even be bought for a few dozen spirit jades. This kind of goods would definitely not be the first choice. Do you have any kinds of elixir recipes for sale here? The extreme North Island was worthy of being the gold-squandering den of the Heavenly Island. There were many good things. Lin Yi wanted to see if there was any elixir recipe for sale. What he lacked the most in alchemy was all kinds of elixir recipes. Although he could get many elixir recipes by helping others, he couldn't control it at all. If he needed to refine some life-saving elixir but didn't have the elixir recipe, wouldn't he only be able to stare? The girl became more and more excited. The price of the elixir recipe was more expensive than the book. Today she was going to make a fortune. "Senior, I don't know what kind of elixir recipe you need. Our Extreme North Chamber of Commerce has a compilation of yellow-level elixir recipes. There are a total of 97 kinds of yellow-level elixir recipes. The price is 1.5 million spirit jades. As for the mystic level elixir recipes, they are sold separately. The mystic level first level elixir recipe is basically 300,000 spirit jades." The girl eagerly looked at Lin Yi, hoping that he could buy the compilation of yellow level elixir recipes. With a price of 1.5 million spirit jades, she would be able to get a commission of at least 10,000 spirit jades after the transaction. It was almost the same as hitting the jackpot. Normally, no one would buy this kind of pill recipe. Even if they did, they would buy a single pill recipe with a clear purpose. Because Lin Yi looked quite young, the girl instinctively felt that even if Lin Yi was an alchemist, it was impossible for him to surpass the golden tier. Therefore, she only introduced the price of the mystic level 1 pill recipe and didn't continue. In comparison, a 300,000 pill recipe and a book with 97 pill recipes for 1.5 5 million was a very good comparison. It would make people subconsciously choose to buy the compilation. Lin Yi smiled faintly and said, "Let me see all the Mystic Grade 1 and above pill recipes. As for the yellow grade, forget it." Now the yellow grade pills were no longer of any use to Lin Yi. At most, he would refine some pills to improve the cultivation of his underlings. He had all the pill recipes in this area, so what he needed now was to buy the Mystic Grade 1 and above pill recipes. The girl was stunned for a moment and then understood. The person in front of her was likely to be a Mystic Grade 1 and above alchemist. Such a young Mystic Grade 1 alchemist, it was really hard for her to accept. Speaking of which, why would a Mystic Grade 1 alchemist want to buy the herb essence for a detailed explanation? Seeing that the girl didn't move, Lin Yi raised his eyebrows and asked, "What? Can't I see it? At least tell me the name and use of the pill recipe?" The girl quickly shook her head and said, No, sorry senior, I was distracted." After a quick apology, the girl's pretty face was slightly red, and she quickly took out a piece of paper and said, "Senior, our Extreme North Commerce currently only has 5 Mystic Grade 1 pill recipes, 2 Mystic Grade 2 pill recipes, and no higher level ones. Please take a look and see if there is anything you need. By the way, each Mystic Grade 2 pill recipe is 600,000 spirit jades." Lin Yi couldn't help but sigh. Being an elixir refiner really was a very wealthy occupation. Just the recipes alone could be sold for hundreds of thousands of spirit jades, and refining elixirs for other people required them to provide the recipes themselves. This was equivalent to earning a lot of spirit jades for free, not to mention the other rewards. Taking the paper and looking at it, it recorded the names and simple introductions of the 7 Mystic Grade pill recipes. Lin Yi found that 2 of them were Mystic Grade 1 pill recipes and 1 Mystic Grade 2 pill recipe that he already had, so there was no need to buy them again. "I want these 3 Mystic Grade 1 pill recipes and 1 Mystic Grade 2 pill recipe." Lin Yi pointed to the few pill recipes that he didn't have and said to the girl, "A mere 1 million spirit jades, he didn't care at all. The Zheng family gave him 15 million spirit jades." As for the girl who received Lin Yi, she was about to faint from happiness. 4 pill recipes, the total price was exactly the same as the yellow pill recipe compilation. She thought she couldn't do this big business, but she didn't expect it to be successful in the end. Afraid that Lin Yi would regret it, the girl broke through her limits and handed the 4 pill recipes to Lin Yi. Lin Yi didn't hesitate and directly took out the corresponding spirit jade card and gave it to her, letting her settle the bill first. After removing the restriction on herbal essentials detailed explanation and the 4 pill recipes, Lin Yi was about to go to the Array Dao area to take a look. Suddenly he heard a faint quarrel coming from the martial technique area. Wei Xinjin's voice was impressively among them. Lin Yi's divine sense immediately swept over there. If it was a floor away, it might be blocked by the restriction, but on the same floor, his divine sense didn't have the slightest hindrance. He easily saw where Wei Xinjin was. At this time, Wei Xinjin was confronting a young man in his 20s. 2 girls from the Extreme North Chamber of Commerce stood between the two anxiously, persuading them to keep calm. Lin Yi just took a glance and knew that this was a dispute between the two because of a heart sutra. Since Wei Xinjin was in trouble, he, as the boss, naturally had to stand up for him. Therefore Lin Yi didn't go to the Array Dao area, but went directly to the martial technique area. "Kid, if you know what's good for you, then hurry up and get out of here. Otherwise, just wait for this young master to teach you a lesson." The young man had a domineering look. If it weren't for the 2 girls from the Extreme North Chamber of Commerce stopping him, he might have already made a move on Wei Xinjin. Lin Yi estimated that he would be blacklisted by the Extreme North Chamber of Commerce in the future. It wasn't long since he came here and he already had 2 conflicts. If it was him, he also didn't like to have such people patronizing his Tiandan pavilion. Chapter 5883. This young master, that martial skill was indeed his first. Our Extreme North Chamber of Commerce still has the rule of first come, first served. In fact, there are other similar martial skills. Let me introduce you. One of the 2 girls in the middle squeezed out a smile and said to the young man. The other one was persuading Wei Xinjin in a low voice to stop adding fuel to the fire. The young man pushed the girl in front of him and said loudly, "Extreme North Chamber of Commerce has the rule of first come, first served. There should also be a rule of the highest bidder, right? The price of this martial skill is 100,000 spirit jades. This young master will pay 200,000 spirit jades to buy it. There is no problem, right?" The girl who was pushed suddenly stopped talking. If Wei Xinjin had already paid the money and the goods, then it would be useless to say anything. However, Wei Shenjin only had the intention to buy it. Strictly speaking, he didn't really complete the transaction. At this time, someone was willing to pay a high price for it. It really didn't violate the rules. More importantly, if Wei Shenjin bought it, the benefits would belong to the other girl. If this young man bought it, then the commission of the spirit jades would belong to her. In the face of such temptation, the girl really couldn't resist, so she let the young man bid. Wei Shenjin coldly snorted and said, "The highest bidder gets it. Do you think I don't have spirit jades? I'll pay 250,000 spirit jades." Behind him was Lin Yi, a profound level 1 alchemist. A mere few 100,000 spirit jades was no pressure at all. There was no need for Lin Yi to make a move. Wei Shenjin's own savings were enough. The young man didn't even frown and directly said lightly, 500,000 spirit jades. The girl who was pushed away by this guy immediately covered her mouth to prevent herself from screaming. It was just 200,000 spirit jades, and now it suddenly became 500,000. Although Wei Shenjin added 50,000 in the middle, this guy added 250,000 without changing his expression. It was clear that he was determined to get that martial skill. Wei Shenjin's face was a bit ugly. Obviously, he was not used to the other party doubling the price. After a slight pause, Wei Shenjin said, 600,000 spiritual jades. This was all he had, and he could only rely on Lin Yi to use the rest of it. 1 million spirit jades. This young master wants to see how much you can carry in your wallet. The young man seemed to have noticed Wei Shenjin's hesitation and immediately said proudly. Even if Wei Shenjin had spiritual jades, he would not continue to increase the price. Moreover, he did not have enough spiritual jades at the moment. Although he was helpless, it seemed like he could only give up now. Wei Shenjin glanced at the book and was about to give up when Lin Yi's voice sounded in his ear. "Continue, don't worry about the spiritual jades." Wei Shenjin's spirit was immediately shaken. Although it was only Lin Yi's voice transmission, he instantly became very confident. He once again called out, 1,500,000 spirit jades. He directly increased the price by 500,000, which was even more than that guy's previous increase. Wei Shenjin directly surpassed him in terms of momentum. Fortunately, this was not a normal auction. Otherwise, everyone would go crazy. Who the hell liked to increase the price like this? Even if you have spiritual jades, you can't play like this. The young man suddenly became angry. He did not know where Wei Shenjin's confidence came from, but he absolutely could not tolerate his opponent's arrogant expression in front of him. In terms of spiritual jades, he had never been afraid of anyone. 3 million spirit jades. If you have the guts, continue to increase the price. This young master does not believe that you actually have that many spiritual jades. This guy's eyes were filled with rage. Everyone believed that if Wei Shenjin dared to continue to increase the price, he would do everything he could to suppress Wei Shenjin. To be honest, Wei Shenjin was really hesitant. 3 million spirit jades to buy a 100,000 spirit jades martial skill was already far beyond his psychological endurance. Although Lin Yi did not lack spirit jades, he also could not use his boss's things so casually. However, his hesitation did not show. He heard Lin Yi's voice transmission, 5 million spirit jades, 5 million spirit jades. Wei Shenjin did not hesitate to do as he was told. He did not consider whether Lin Yi's words were reasonable or not. He just instinctively did as he was told. 8 million spirit jades. The young man also did not stop to call out the latest price. When the young girl heard this, she almost fainted. This world was too crazy. Small people like them could not understand it. At this time Lin Yi just happened to walk over. He said to Wei Shenjin, "Let's go." Only those idiots would spend 8 million spirit jades to buy a rubbish martial skill. Later we will buy another 50 or 60 martial skills. Learn 2, throw away 3 and use a few dozen for barbecue. Wei Shenjin was slightly startled. He thought that Lin Yi would fight to the death with the other party. He did not expect that he would directly say that he was leaving. However, he immediately understood that his boss was tricking that idiot. That martial skill was indeed not bad. However, it was definitely not a rare item. Otherwise, it would not be placed here for sale. Instead, it was directly sent to the auction house. If one were to talk about its value, it would be at most 150,000 spirit jades. 8 million spirit jades? Wei Shenjin did not know what to say. "Okay, boss. Let's go. There seems to be nothing else that can catch my eye." After thinking about it, Wei Shenjin suddenly felt refreshed. He smiled and agreed. He followed Lin Yi and prepared to leave. As for that young man, he did not even bother to look at him. That young man's complexion instantly turned gloomy. It was true that he had spirit jades. However, being tricked like this had nothing to do with the amount of spirit jades. In fact, he originally wanted to trick Wei Shinjin. If he had bid 3 million spirit jades, and Wei Shinjin had only added 100,000 or 200,000 spirit jades, he should not have continued to increase the price. Because such a price meant that Wei Shinjin was about to reach his bottom line. He could give up at any time. However, when he saw Wei Shinjin bid 5 million spirit jades without even blinking his eyes, this young man had wrongly estimated Wei Shinjin's endurance. He thought that Wei Shinjin was also a person who did not lack spirit jades. Moreover, he would bid more than 10 million spirit jades for the sake of fighting spirit. As long as Wei Shinjin continued to bid, he would stop bidding. At the same time, he would be complacent and ridiculing him. However, he did not expect that before he could carry out his plan, he would be tricked by the other party. This feeling of suffocation almost made the young man explode with anger. Chapter 58-84. If this wasn't the extreme North Chamber of Commerce, and if he wasn't warned by his family's elders not to stir up trouble in the extreme North Island, he would have already made his move instead of asking for the names of Lin Yi and Wei Wuyan out of boredom. Lin Yi casually pushed Yu Ziqing aside and said faintly, "I'm not interested in knowing a small fry like you. If you want revenge, come and find me directly. My name is Lin Yi and Wei Shinjin." Since the boss had signed up as the younger brother, of course he couldn't fall behind. Wei Shinjin also squinted at Yu Ziqing and said proudly. Yu Ziqing was extremely shocked. He originally thought that his strength was enough to deal with Lin Yi and Wei Wuyan. He was still thinking whether he should teach them a lesson after leaving the extreme North Chamber of Commerce. However, Lin Yi casually pushed him away and made him feel that he couldn't resist at all. This young guy was actually more talented than him. Other than the East Continent, could there be such a person in other rural areas? I'll remember you. Yu Ziqing forcibly suppressed the anger in his heart. He was arrogant, but he was not a brainless person. Otherwise he wouldn't want to trick Wei Shinjin. It just happened too fast just now and he didn't have time to think, so Lin Yi took the initiative. Now Lin Yi's strength was obviously above him, and the person protecting him was not by his side. Therefore he could only temporarily swallow this anger and wait to settle the score later. Lin Yi didn't care about Yu Ziqing's intention and directly left the extreme North Chamber of Commerce with Wei Shinjin. Of course, before leaving he also asked the previous girl to take a book on the basics of Array Dao and a more advanced ancient book on Array Dao, so that they could study it when they had time. These two books were common goods, so they weren't worth much. After asking for instructions, the girl directly gave them to Lin Yi as a bonus. Anyway, the previous martial arts skill that was worth 100,000 spirit jades was sold for 8 million, which had a lot to do with Lin Yi and Wei Wuyan. This little thing was nothing at all. Lin Yi had no reason to refuse. This time, he had gained a lot from coming to the extreme North Chamber of Commerce. Of course, the biggest gain was offending two young masters from the East Continent. "Boss, I'm sorry. I've caused you trouble again." On the way back, Wei Shinjin said with some shame. He didn't know that Yu Ziqing was from the East Continent, otherwise he wouldn't have gotten into a fight with him. After all, he'd just gotten into an argument with Qian Xiaodong. People from the East Continent weren't easy to deal with, and it wasn't a wise choice to continue making enemies. Lin Yi waved his hand nonchalantly. "Remember, we're not looking for trouble, but we're not afraid of others either. As long as we're in the right, there's nothing to worry about." Boss. Boss. Wei Shinjin was greatly encouraged. He agreed loudly and threw his previous worries to the back of his mind. Lin Yi was really not afraid of others finding trouble with him. Along the way, opponents who were stronger than him were all defeated by him. Even if those two guys had a strong background, he had nothing to worry about. This was not blind confidence, but confidence in his own Dao. No matter what kind of strong enemy he faced, he had a fearless Dao heart. In the entire northernmost island, only the northernmost Chamber of Commerce was selling things. Apart from that, there were some places to eat, drink and have fun. The name of Gold Squandering Den was not just for show. Before the auction began, the business of these places was extremely prosperous. Lin Yi had no interest in these. After buying what he wanted, he went back with Wei Shinjin. He had to seize the time to learn some basic knowledge. Whether it was Dan Dao or Array Dao, it would be of great help to him. However, Lin Yi didn't have much time to learn. After about half an hour, someone came to 5 Elements Commerce looking for Kai Zhongyang. If it was a normal person looking for someone, Lin Yi certainly wouldn't care. However, the person was shouting as soon as he came. It was obvious that he was looking for trouble. Lin Yi couldn't just sit back and do nothing. Kai Zhongyang, come out quickly. If you can't take out the Yangji grass today, I will teach your 5 elements commerce a lesson. As soon as Lin Yi came out, he saw a handsome young man blocking the entrance with more than 10 elite northern garrison soldiers. He was shouting and cursing loudly. The person who could command the northern garrison was naturally an important figure in the northernmost island. In addition, the young man was accompanied by Zheng Dongxing and the others. Lin Yi suddenly felt enlightened. All the clues had been connected since the moment this person appeared to ask for the Yangji grass. Kai Zhongyang ran out before Lin Yi. After seeing the young man, he hurried to greet him. He cupped his fists and bowed with a smile. Young island owner Li, please forgive me for not going out to meet you. Previously, I went to visit you with the vice president of the Universal Chamber of Commerce, but I didn't get to see you. I was going to visit you tomorrow, but I didn't expect that you would come in person. Lin Yi's eyes narrowed. He had guessed that this young man was one of the higher-ups in the northernmost island, but he didn't expect him to be the young island owner. The Li family of the northernmost island was not well known because they rarely showed up. Steward Song, who took care of the northernmost island for them, was even more famous. However, if anyone dared to look down on the Li family of the northernmost island, then they must be tired of living. Otherwise, the 2 brats from the East Continent wouldn't have been warned by their elders. Cut the crap. Where is the Yangji grass that I, Li Ziyu, ordered from your 5 elements commerce? As long as you take it out, 5 elements commerce will still be an honorable guest of the northernmost island. If you can't take it out, then don't blame me for being rude. The northernmost island doesn't welcome people like you who don't keep their promises. Besides, I'm afraid it won't be easy for you to leave this place. Li Ziyu didn't mean to be polite at all and directly issued a threat. Kai Zhongyang's face turned ugly. He knew that sending the Yangji grass to save Shangwani would cause some trouble, but he didn't expect it to be this big. Zheng Dongxing chuckled and said, Young Island Master, this old man has already told you that Kai Zhongyang's Yang Extreme Grass has already been given to someone else for alchemy. If you want him to hand over the Yang Extreme Grass now, why don't you just kill him? Li Ziyu was even more furious. He pointed at Kai Zhongyang's nose and shouted, Kai Zhongyang, tell me the truth. Did you really use up my Yangji grass? If you're lying, I promise you that you won't be able to leave the northernmost island. Before he finished his sentence, many northern town guards appeared on the roofs and walls nearby. The atmosphere suddenly became very tense. It seemed like the slightest disagreement could turn into a bloodbath. Chapter 5885. Lin Yi scanned the area with his divine sense and knew that it was Shangwani and Yuhua. They knew that Li Ziyu was here to cause trouble when they heard that a northern guard was coming to the courtyard where 5 elements commerce was staying. That was why they came here as soon as possible. Lin Yi was quite pleased with Shangwani's response. At least he didn't stay out of trouble at a time like this, rushing over to explain himself without hesitation. Kai Zhongyang saving his life with the Yang pole grass wasn't a waste. Li Ziyu turned around and snorted, And who are you? I am the vice president of the All-Path Chamber of Commerce, Shangwani. Young Island Master, please listen to this Shang's words. Vice President Kai only took out the Yang Extreme Grass to save me, so this Shang is also responsible for this matter. If Young Island Master wants to pursue this matter, this Shang is willing to take responsibility. Shangwani was a bit guilty, but he had to repay Kai Zhongyang and Lin Yi for saving his life. Otherwise, he would never be able to survive in Middle Island. So you have a share too. Let him in. Li Ziyu waved his hand and signaled the northern guard to let Shangwani and his daughter in. Then he said coldly, If you take out the Yang pole grass, then you will be fine. If you don't, humph, not to mention the 5 elements commerce and the Universal Chamber of Commerce, even the top 10 chambers of commerce on Heaven-class Island cannot save your life. These words were extremely domineering, but Kai Zhongyang and Shangwani's hearts turned cold at the same time, because they knew that Li Ziyu really wasn't joking with them, and that this was indeed his plan. Young Island Master, although the Yang pole grass is precious, it is not something that cannot be obtained. The Universal Chamber of Commerce is willing to search for the Yang pole grass as compensation to Young Island Master. On top of that, we will take out another 10 million spirit jades as compensation. I hope that Young Island Master can be lenient. Shangwani cupped his fists and bowed. His posture was extremely humble, almost as if he was begging Li Ziyu. House Li was indeed strong, but the Universal Chamber of Commerce and 5 Elements Commerce weren't weak either, especially when 5 Elements Commerce was backed by the Pill Hall. Although they were considered independent from the Pill Hall, no one would deny that if something were to happen to Five Elements Commerce, the pill god Zhang Liju wouldn't just sit and watch. Therefore Shangwani still had some thoughts in his mind. He thought that after sincerely taking out such a compensation plan, Li Ziyu should not continue to be aggressive. Unfortunately, things didn't go as he thought. After listening to his words, Li Ziyu only laughed coldly. Do you think I am lacking 10 million spirit jades? I'll be honest with you, unless you can find the yang pole grass within 2 days, otherwise, even if you give me 100 billion spirit jades, you won't be able to leave here alive. Kai Zhongyang and the others all took in a deep breath. They didn't expect Li Ziyu to be so resolute. Other than the yang pole grass, it seemed like there was nothing else that could make him change his mind. Lin Yi walked up and cupped his fists. Young Island Master Li, may I ask what you need the yang pole grass for? Who are you? Li Ziyu stared at Lin Yi with an unfriendly expression. He wasn't in a good mood right now and he wasn't someone that any random person could talk to. North Island Blue Cloud Pavilion disciple Lin Yi. Lin Yi casually told Li Ziyu his identity. Since other identities weren't threatening in front of Li Ziyu, he might as well say that he was a disciple of Blue Cloud Pavilion. It was the same anyway. One of the Northern Guard soldiers seemed to know who Lin Yi was. He leaned close to Li Ziyu and whispered something in his ear. Li Ziyu's expression didn't change. He nodded slightly and said, So you're a disciple of Blue Cloud Pavilion that Shanghai Tianhua thinks highly of. So what? If you want to intercede on their behalf, even if Shanghai Tianhua is here, it's useless. Let alone a mere disciple of Blue Cloud Pavilion. Lin Yi smiled faintly and said, I'm not interceding. I'm just asking the young island master what the yang pole grass is for. Li Ziyu seemed to think that it wasn't bad that Lin Yi was valued by Shanghai Tianhua. He was barely able to speak in front of him. Surprisingly, he didn't get angry at Lin Yi. He only said coldly, Of course I want the yang pole grass to refine the yin-yang pill. Otherwise, do you think I'm going to plant it for fun? Lin Yi didn't mind and smiled, Young Island Master Li, I'm a mystic level 1 alchemist. There's one thing you might not know. I was the one who refined the yin-yang pill on the ancient warship. So I want to tell you that just having the yang pole grass isn't enough to refine the yin-yang pill. So you're the one who refined the yin-yang pill. Li Ziyu's complexion slightly changed, but he didn't get angry like he did with Shangwani. After all, he was facing an alchemist. At the very least, he needed to show respect. After looking deeply at Lin Yi, Li Ziyu pointed at Zheng Dongxing and said, I don't need you to remind me. This young master naturally knows that refining the yin-yang pill requires the yin core fruit. This is the Hall of Medicine's alchemist Zheng. He has the yin core fruit that this young master ordered. Lin Yi sneered in his heart. This matter was really the Zheng family's plot. The purpose was to attack him by attacking Kai Zhongyang. This method was even more infuriating than directly plotting against him. It was no wonder that Zheng Dongxing wanted to keep a yin core fruit close to his body. Plotting against Kai Zhongyang, of course he had to pull himself out. If there was only one yin core fruit, it was estimated that the Zheng family wouldn't have thought about Kai Zhongyang's yang pole grass. Perishing together was not the result that the Zheng family wanted. Fortunately, Lin Yi had accidentally found the yin core fruit on Zheng Dongxing's body and conveniently got it. Now it came in handy. Young Island Master, where do you think the yin-yang pill and yin core fruit that I refined came from? I'm not afraid to tell you that I bought it from alchemist Zheng Dongxing. President Kai, with the purpose of saving people, took out the yang pole grass for free. Originally, he wanted to continue to search for more, but unfortunately, the North Island didn't have it, so he wanted to apologize to the young island master. Does this alchemist Zheng have any intentions in this regard? Lin Yi sneered. Zheng Dongxing probably didn't realize that the jade box on him no longer had the yin core fruit. Otherwise he wouldn't be standing so calmly beside Li Ziyu. Li Ziyu was slightly startled, then looked at Zheng Dongxing with an unfriendly expression and said, Alchemist Zheng, did you really sell this young master's yin core fruit? Without waiting for Zheng Dongxing to speak, Lin Yi continued, Young Island Master, when you went to ask Zheng Dongxing for the yin core fruit, did he say that even if you had the yin core fruit, it would be useless? Because the yang pole grass had already been used up, and because the young island master was distracted, he didn't get the yin core fruit and directly brought people to find Vice President Kai? Although Lin Yi said it simply, it was basically very close to the truth. Li Ziyu wasn't a fool. In a flash he knew that he had been played. This was clearly a scheme to divert the trouble to someone else, to kill with a borrowed knife. Chapter 5886. Jing Dongxing, you dare to fool me? Li Ziyu suddenly flew into a rage. Compared to Kai Zhongyang and the others who calmly admitted their mistakes and sought compensation and forgiveness, Jing Dongxing's little tricks were simply toying with him, the young island master of the extreme North Island. Jing Dongxing was shocked and his heart was a little flustered. A person like Li Ziyu was not someone he could afford to offend. Fortunately, he was prepared, or else it would be troublesome this time. He hurriedly took out the jade box that he kept close to his body, held it with both hands and bowed to Li Ziyu, saying, "Young island master, this is the encore fruit that I bought. Don't listen to that despicable person's provocation. How can we not do what young island master asked us to do? I didn't take it out directly because I was worried that young island master didn't have the yang extreme grass, so you couldn't treat island master Li's injuries." Li Ziyu looked at Jing Dongxing playfully and said in an extremely unfriendly tone, "You guys are very capable. You actually know that this young master wants to refine the yin yang pill to save my family's old man. It seems that you have planted informants in our Li family." Jing Dongxing was immediately dumbfounded. Jing Dongjue and Jing Tianqin, who were beside him, were also drenched in cold sweat. Li Ziyu's words could be big or small. If he dared to plant a spy in the Li family of the extreme north, even if it was the Dan Hall, he could forget about protecting their Jing family. Damn it, Li Ziyu really never said that he wanted the yang extreme grass and encore fruit to save his father Li Zaixiang. Jing Dongxing knew about this matter by chance, but even if he said so, no one would believe him. Jing Dongxing's hands that were holding the jade box trembled slightly. The cold sweat on his forehead had already flowed to his chin, dripping down drop by drop. Young island master misunderstood. How could I plant any informants? This is completely a guess. Think about it, who can make young island master personally search for medicinal herbs in the whole world except for island master? Who else is qualified? Isn't that right? Young island master's filial piety is well known, so I also made a bold guess. I didn't expect it to be true. I wonder how island master Li's injuries are? It's really worrying. In a moment of desperation, Jing Dongxing's intelligence was off the charts. He forcefully found a reason that wasn't a reason, and in any case he managed to brush it off. Of course, Li Ziyu wouldn't believe Jing Dongxing's nonsense so easily. However, he had to admit that there was some truth in what this old thing said. For example, young Master Li's filial piety touched the heavens. For example, other than this old man, no one was qualified to make him appear. After a moment of silence, Li Ziyu then took the jade box from Jing Dongxing's hands and said, "This young master believes that our Li family of the extreme north will not be bribed by you, so even if what you said this time is reasonable, seeing that you have successfully brought the encore fruit, I will not argue with you." Just as he finished speaking, Li Ziyu, who had just opened the jade box, glared angrily and fiercely smashed the empty jade box onto Jing Dongxing's head, causing his head to bleed and he almost died from his brain rupturing. "Old fool. How dare you make fun of me? Do you really think I won't dare to kill you?" Li Ziyu was about to explode. This old bastard, he actually took an empty box to make fun of him. He had seen people who were not afraid of death, but he had never seen someone who was not afraid of death to this extent. After throwing the jade box, Li Ziyu took the opportunity to kick the dumbfounded Jing Dongxing's chest. A few light cracking sounds could be heard. It was obvious that several of Jing Dongxing's sternum were broken. Take them down and throw them into prison. Don't let this old thing die. If I don't let this old thing know the consequences of making fun of this young master, how can I let him die so easily? Li Ziyu's chest was violently moving up and down. It was obvious that he was really angry. It was fine that Jing Dongxing used a borrowed knife to kill someone, but he actually took out an empty box and said that there was a encore fruit. Did the dignified young master of the extreme North Island look like an idiot? He couldn't even tell if it was an empty box or not. After receiving the order, several North Town guards instantly unsheathed their sabers and formed an attack formation, surrounding the three people of the Zheng family. Two long sabers were directly placed on Jing Dongxing's neck. If he dared to move, he would immediately be beheaded. "Young master, I'm wronged. There must be some misunderstanding here." Jing Dongxing couldn't care less about the blood spurting from his forehead and the blood that kept gushing out of his mouth. He screamed at the top of his lungs. Fortunately, Li Ziyu said that he wouldn't let him die so easily. After the North Town guards restrained him, they had already fed him a healing elixir. At least his injuries were under control. Zheng Dongjue also quickly begged for mercy. "Young master, I am the vice head of Middle Island's Alchemy Hall. I dare to swear on the name of Middle Island's Alchemy Hall that this is not what you see. Please give us some time, we will definitely give you a satisfactory explanation. As for Zheng Tianqing, he was basically pissing his pants. He only wanted to find Chen Xiaodong now. On the extreme North Island, perhaps only Chen Xiaodong could save his life. After that, it didn't matter if he became their slave or slave. As long as he could stay alive in the hands of the furious Li Ziyu, it was fine. Unfortunately, under the situation where he was being stabbed, he didn't even have the strength to beg for mercy, let alone find Chen Xiaodong. The vice head of the alchemy hall dares to come to the extreme North Island and make fun of this young master? Do you really think you are the elixir god Zhang Liju? Li Ziyu said to Zheng Dongjue in disdain. Although he said that, he didn't do anything to Zheng Dongjue for the sake of the alchemy hall. Otherwise, these two old things wouldn't have a good time. Zheng Dongjue quickly seized the opportunity to say, "Young Island Lord, to tell you the truth, my cousin did indeed sell a Een core fruit, but we only had 2 Een core fruits. Because we could leave one for Young Island Lord, we took out one to save Shangwani's life. Who knew that the Een core fruit we left behind would have a problem? We really didn't mean to deceive Young Island Lord." Li Ziyu laughed and narrowed his eyes. "What, you can't take anything out and you're blaming me?" No, how could we dare to blame you? What I mean is, there must be something fishy going on. Zheng Dongjue quickly explained. If they continued to piss Li Ziyu off, the 3 of them might just die. Chapter 5887. Zheng Dongxing's injuries were already a lot better under the effects of the medicinal pills. Taking advantage of Zheng Dongjue's words, he began to think about how the Een core fruit disappeared. Before leaving the ancient warship, he specifically confirmed that the Een core fruit was still lying in the jade box. But how long had it been? How did it mysteriously disappear? Thinking about it carefully, it seemed that other than Chen Xiaodong and Uncle Li from the East Continent, he only had dealings with Lin Yi. Although Zheng Dongxing wasn't sure if it was Lin Yi's doing, now wasn't the time to collect evidence. He had to seize the opportunity to drag the enemy down with him. Young Island Master, I remember now. Previously, when we were at the extreme North Chamber of Commerce, we had a small conflict with that bastard Lin Yi. He must have stolen my Een core fruit at that time. As long as Young Island Master searches his body, you will definitely be able to find the Een core fruit. Zheng Dongxing didn't care about the consequences anymore. Anyway, he had to bite down on Lin Yi first. However, he didn't know that this nonsense was actually infinitely close to the truth. It had to be said that this old fellow's IQ really went online. Lin Yi smiled slightly and said, "Zheng Dongxing, your little trick of framing others is really getting better and better. It's a pity that Young Island Master is such a smart person. How could he be used by you again and again? It doesn't matter if you're stupid, but don't think that everyone is as stupid as you." Li Ziyu suddenly choked. When he heard Zheng Dongxing's words, he really wanted to search Lin Yi's body. However, with Lin Yi's words, he was too embarrassed to say it. If he really did that, wouldn't it show that he, the wise and mighty Young Island Master, was completely led by the nose by the surname Zheng? Lin Yi unhurriedly looked at Li Ziyu and said, "Young Island Master Li, the yang pole grass has indeed been used up, but as you can see, Zheng Dongxing's dark core fruit is also gone. Our Vice Chairman Kai and Vice Chairman Shang are very sincere in discussing the matter of compensation, but this old thing surnamed Zheng wants to use Young Island Master as a tool. Young Island Master should understand this, right?" Li Ziyu was very annoyed in his heart. This bastard was touching my sore spot. Was he trying to make things clear or not? Regardless of whether he understood it or not, it seemed that he wasn't that wise and mighty. After vaguely replying, Li Ziyu once again vented his anger on Zheng Dongxing. After a series of punches and kicks, he had the Northern Guard stuff a pill into the old thing's mouth. Then he angrily said, "This is outrageous. You old thing, see how this young master will deal with you." The 3 people from the Zheng family now hated Lin Yi to the core. This bastard's method of hitting someone when they're down was really good. And Li Ziyu was really moved by him. If this continued, the Zheng family would really be finished. "Young Island Master, everything we said is the truth. There is absolutely no falsehood. In any case, please believe us. Also, this Lin Yi is a despicable and shameless person. Young Island Master must not be fooled by him. No matter what he says, the fact that Kai Zhongyang lost the yang pole grass is a fact. There is no way to refute it." Zheng Dongjue really couldn't come up with any strong evidence, so he simply burned the fire on Kai Zhongyang again, hoping to divert Li Ziyu's attention. As a result, Li Ziyu directly slapped him in the face. At the same time he scolded, Do I need you to teach me how to do things? Do you think this young master can be fooled by just anyone? Who the hell do you think you are? Li Ziyu slapped him every time he spoke. Although it was only 3 slaps, Zheng Dongjue really wanted to die. No matter what, he was the deputy hall master of the alchemy division. When had he ever been humiliated like this? Fortunately, Li Ziyu didn't continue. Instead, he turned to Lin Yi and said, "All right, I know about this. I'm not an unreasonable person. Since the yang pole grass and the encore fruit are gone, and your attitude of admitting your mistakes is better, I won't bother to argue with you. Now, both of your chambers of commerce will get out of the extreme North Island, and you will never set foot on the island again. Did you hear me clearly?" After a slight pause, he pointed at Lin Yi and said, "And you, although you are a mystic first-level alchemist, we don't lack alchemists like you in the extreme North Island. You get out of here too, and you are not allowed to set foot on the island again." Lin Yi and the others were all stunned. Being kicked out of the extreme North Island was equivalent to losing the qualification to participate in the top auction. This was definitely a heavy blow to the 2 chambers of commerce. Of course, expelling the 2 chambers of commerce was also more harmful than beneficial to the extreme North Island. If Li Ziyu wasn't really angry, he wouldn't have made such a decision. Lin Yi didn't really care if he didn't come to the extreme North Island in the future, but this time he absolutely couldn't leave. He was still counting on the spirit gathering branch to wake up Han Jingjing, and the soul wood was also a must. How could he leave the extreme North Island now? Shang Wani hurriedly said, "Young Island Master, this matter started because of me. It has nothing to do with others, and it has nothing to do with our 2 chambers of commerce. If Young Island Master must punish me, then punish me, Shang Wani, to leave the extreme North Island alone. As for the others, I hope Young Island Master can let them go, especially our 2 chambers of commerce. It has nothing to do with this matter." Li Ziyu waved his hand coldly and said, "No need to say anything, you all have to get out of here. Now it's you who didn't keep your words. This kind of chamber of commerce doesn't have the right to enter the extreme North Island. I'm already being merciful by not killing you all. If you still don't know what's good for you, then just don't leave. All of you can stay in the extreme North Island, I will find you a good place." As he said that, Li Ziyu turned and pointed at Zheng Dongjue, "And you, I will give face to Dan God Zhang Liju. Bring everyone from the Dan Hall and get out of the extreme North Island. Unless the Dan God comes personally, otherwise, you are all forbidden from entering the island. As for this old thing and his grandson, lock them up in the jail first. If my old man is fine, then forget it. If anything happens to him, then prepare to be sliced into pieces." Zheng Dongxing and Zheng Tianqing felt a chill down their spine. They wanted to struggle and beg for mercy. Unfortunately, the 2 northern sentinels knocked them out and tied them up tightly like rice dumplings. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.